Chapter 592, Dong Ho Family. This subordinate will obey. Marshal Saint Ming Luo bowed respectfully and left the hall. After leaving the hall, his aura became faint and his cultivation became even lower. To outsiders, he was only at the martial royal realm. Such a cultivation was the best in the county capital. It would not attract attention, nor would it be looked down upon. Moreover, his original appearance had changed and he looked rather wooden. Even if Li Lingtian was not careful, he would not have recognized him. After doing everything, he quickly left the Li residence. He was extremely touched. He finally understood why there was such a huge gap between them. At 22 or 23 years old, Li Lingtian had already attained the fourth firmament martial emperor realm and became a saint alchemist to refine peerless pills. His strength was shocking, and his identity was even more unimaginable. This was because Li Lingtian was incomparable to the so-called heaven's favorite in every aspect. No one could compare to him when it came to treating his subordinates. He could treat his subordinates like his own brothers. The heavenly monster king was the same as him. He had submitted to Li Lingtian and followed him in the same situation as the demonic tower. Furthermore, the heavenly demon king was a demon. However, Li Lingtian was still concerned about the heavenly demon king's danger. He would not allow any of his subordinates to die so easily. After Li Lingtian finished arranging everything, he felt much more relaxed. Although there were only Long De and Yunhao by his side, he didn't feel unsafe at all. With his current cultivation, he might not lose even if he was at the second or third sky of the martial saint realm, let alone the first sky. They have something to do. However, the few of you shouldn't be idle. Raise your cultivation a little. Li Lingtian said to Marshal Saint Yunhao and Long De before he waved his hand. With a flick of his divine consciousness, the two of them were sucked into the divine dragon ring. In the end, Li Lingtian's divine consciousness followed suit and entered the divine dragon ring. The divine dragon ring was now a boundless space. It was unknown how big it was. Although it was barren inside, Li Lingtian had absorbed a lot of spirit qi into it and there was a faint spirit qi in it. However, Li Lingtian allowed them to cultivate outside the dragon abyss. That place had a mix of dragon energy and spirit qi. Even if they were humans, they would be able to improve their cultivation and strength quickly. Yunhao was also cultivating in this place, so Long De naturally entered the dragon energy of the 3,000 worlds to cultivate. After Li Lingtian entered the divine dragon ring, he was the master of the place. He could go wherever he wanted. This time, when he arrived in front of the silver-winged flying dragon, he saw that the silver-winged flying dragon was cultivating diligently. The silver-winged flying dragon was one of the few demonic beasts that had followed him the earliest, and it was also the most powerful. Li Lingtian had been cultivating inside for a long time but he did not call him out to become his trump card. Ever since the last time he was in the demon suppression secrets, he had not gone out after coming in. Young master. The silver-winged flying dragon stopped its cultivation upon Li Lingtian's arrival and opened its sharp eyes. Similarly, silver-winged flying dragons could not transform unless they had a heaven-defying fortuitous encounter. However, when he used his true body to fight, his strength was even more terrifying than after he transformed. Not bad. You've already reached level 7 or 9. Wait for the opportunity to break through. If you don't have the opportunity, you can only wait for me to reach the strength of a true dragon before I can raise your realm. Li Lingtian was extremely satisfied with the silver-winged flying dragon's cultivation base. During this period of time, the silver-winged flying dragon's cultivation base had advanced by leaps and bounds due to its diligent cultivation. This was also the reason why it felt that its cultivation base was too low after Li Lingtian's previous injury. It wanted to raise its cultivation base to provide greater help to Li Lingtian. As it was Li Lingtian's combat partner who had been by his side the longest, it could not let Li Lingtian and Little White down. This subordinate will definitely work hard to cultivate. It's only a matter of time before young master reaches the strength of a true dragon. The silver-winged flying dragon answered respectfully as it waited for Li Lingtian's instructions. We'll see. If it really doesn't work, I'll give you a little dragon soul. Maybe you can break through. After Li Lingtian finished speaking, he left the 3000 dragon energy world with a flash of his divine consciousness and finally arrived at his herb garden. Looking at the medicinal garden that was 50 miles in size and filled with precious medicinal herbs and spiritual fruits that were over 10,000 years old, as well as natural treasures, a smile appeared on his face. After walking around the divine dragon ring, he left and returned to the real world. The next day, the county capital was in a complete upheaval. The entire Nandu County had begun to clean up. Originally, a few powerful families had posed a threat to the country ruler's status. Even the country ruler did not dare to touch a few families. However, this time, the country ruler personally led the experts to sort out all the families. The families with disloyalty were wiped out. For a moment, the Nandu County city was in turmoil. Other foreign forces could only hide and not dare to provoke them. They were all puzzled. They didn't understand what the prefecture was doing, and they didn't know why the prefecture was so bold. What was even more terrifying was that the 6 families were either destroyed or submitted in a short day. None of them dared to resist. Even a reclusive first sky martial saint expert was beaten to pieces by a big guy beside the king. What kind of concept was a martial saint? In the commandery, he was an invincible existence, a supreme existence. A martial saint was the pillar of a kingdom. However, there was a martial saint in a commandery's family. However, this martial saint was killed. All of a sudden, countless families and forces began to take sides and did not dare to go against the prefecture. Chu Tianlan was the one who should be happy. He never expected the heavenly monster king to be a martial saint. A terrifying martial saint. He was so powerful that he could even kill the martial saint of the Bai family in a few moves. This made him stunned for a long time. They admired Li Lingtian even more. Even a super martial saint powerhouse was respectful to Li Lingtian. There was also the jade-eyed beast. It did not look like much, but when it faced a 5th-level martial emperor, its terrifying demonic power tore the 5th-level martial emperor apart. He was also invincible against a 6th or 7th heaven martial monarch realm expert. Thank you for your help. You've worked hard. In the evening, Chu Tianlan and a few powerful experts accompanied the heavenly monster king and the jade-eyed beast back to the prefecture palace. Chu Tianlan said respectfully. In their eyes, the two of them were existences that they could only look up to. If even a martial saint could be easily killed, who wouldn't be afraid of such an expert? It's just a small matter. However, the young master said that we have to pay attention to Dong Ho clan. You guys should keep a close eye on them. The heavenly monster king was still the same. He didn't like Chu Tianlan and didn't make things difficult for her. I understand. I've already sent people to secretly keep an eye on the Bai family. I'll have to trouble the two of you tomorrow. Chu Tianlan was not displeased by the heavenly demon king's words. The heavenly demon king's cultivation base and strength were definitely worthy of him. Furthermore, the heavenly demon king was Li Lingtian's bodyguard. You guys can go back. I'm going to cultivate. Sky Demon King waved his hand. He didn't want to talk to anyone. They wouldn't have any trouble with what young master wanted them to do. However, they didn't want to provoke anyone else. Then we will take our leave first. Chu Tianlan left with the other experts, looking extremely polite. The few super experts were all 5th or 6th firmament martial monarch realm existences. However, they were completely ants in front of the 2 heaven demon monarchs. The next day, Chu Tianlan and the others arrived at Dong Ho's residence. Dong Ho clan was the most powerful clan in Nandu County after the Chu clan, and they had an extremely strong background. Chu Tianlan, I've been waiting for you for a long time. When Dong Ho Ming saw Chu Tianlan and the others, a sinister smile appeared on his face. The hundreds of martial supremes and martial emperors behind him formed a powerful formation. It was obvious that they were about to fight like trapped beasts. Dong Ho's house occupied a radius of several miles and was extremely spacious. Now, hundreds of super experts had gathered together because the Chu clan had already made a move against the other clans. They didn't want any future trouble. Since that was the case, it was necessary to distinguish between the strong and the weak. So the Dong Ho clan had already planned to rebel. Very well then. My lord will help His Majesty clean up your Dong Ho family. If Chu Tianlan still didn't understand at this moment, she wouldn't be fit to be a ruler. Even if they didn't make a move, the Dong Ho family would make a move against Nandu Commandery sooner or later. He had subdued the 6 families, and now the Dong Ho family was already waiting here, ready for a showdown. After saying that, the hundreds of experts behind him took a step forward. The Chu clan was powerful to begin with. With the power of the prefecture, most of the hundreds of experts were martial emperors. They were much stronger than the Dong Ho clan. With the current situation, as long as no accidents happened, they could wipe out Dong Ho clan. Boom! Boom! A great battle was about to break out, and there was no room for negotiation. More than 200 Supreme Realm and Martial Monarch Realm experts fought together, and destructive attacks flew in all directions in the air. The jade-eyed beast transformed into a 20-meter-long beast and charged inside. Its aura was like a rainbow. Every attack killed a Supreme Realm expert. Even a Martial Emperor Realm expert was killed in an instant. On both sides of the battle, only Chu Tianlan and the Heavenly Demon Monarch didn't make a move. In the Dong Ho family, Grand Elders Dong Ho Wu Wen and Dong Ho Ming floated in the air as they watched the battle below coldly. Seeing the experts of Dong Ho clan being killed by the jade-eyed beast, Dong Ho Ming's body flashed and he dove down. He attacked the jade-eyed beast ferociously. The attack of an 8th-level Martial Emperor Realm expert was earth-shattering. You're courting death. Naturally, the jade-eyed beast had noticed Dong Ho Ming's destructive attack. It swung its huge tail into the air, causing the space to tremble and tear apart. Boom! The destructive attack collided with the huge tail. The jade-eyed beast retreated 100 meters, and Dong Ho Ming was also thrown into the air. Blood trickled down from the corner of his mouth. In the face of true power, humans could never be compared to demons. You really hit it well. The 4th level of the Martial Emperor realm, but now he's unleashing the strength of the 8th level. He's plotting something big and hiding something deep. Chu Tianlan looked at Dong Ho Ming's cultivation base and was extremely shocked. She spoke softly. He was trying to tell the Heavenly Demon King that the Dong Ho family had hidden their strength well. If even a Martial Monarch Realm family head could hide such a heaven-defying cultivation, then the Grand Elder must be even more terrifying. Chapter 593, Mysterious Expert, 1. Be careful. Heaven Demon Monarch wasn't stupid. He naturally understood the situation. However, it was hard to predict what would happen later on. He did not dare to be careless about the matter that the young master had given him. He had to make sure that no accidents happened. At this time, he could only use his full strength to deal with his opponent like an eagle hunting a rabbit, killing his opponent and the threat in the cradle. As soon as he finished speaking, his body flashed, and his tall figure disappeared into the air. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Dong Ho Wu Wen. The heaven-shocking hammer in his hand struck out fiercely. The shocking power of the 3rd sky of the Martial Saint Realm tore the space apart. Grotto Heaven Dark North / East Marquis Wu Wen was extremely shocked and he saw the 3rd Firmament Martial Saint cultivation base of Heavenly Demon Monarch. He circulated his quintessential essence and waved his hand. A peerless saint artifact appeared in his hand. The destructive power tore through the space and ruthlessly slashed at the heaven-startling hammer. One was a high-grade saint artifact, while the other was a peerless saint artifact. However, the difference in their cultivation levels was too great, so it could only be decided on the saint artifact. Crash! Gotcha! The space was torn apart by the two destructive attacks and finally shattered. In the county city, countless experts were shocked and they saw the battle between the two martial saints. He did not expect a martial saint to appear in a commandery, and two martial saints were fighting. Such a thing was completely beyond the imagination of all the experts. What terrifying power! I didn't expect there to be a martial saint in Nandu County. Dong Ho clan has such a martial saint hidden within them. He's definitely not simple. It seems that the matter of the bottomless abyss and the spiritual herbal gardens isn't as easy as I thought. Things are getting more and more exciting. In the city, countless experts were shocked, but there were also many super experts who were secretly surprised. The battle between the prefecture and Dong Ho clan had caused a huge commotion in Nandu Prefecture. Pfft! Shoo! In the air, Dong Ho Wu spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. In the end, he forced himself to stand in the air. The Grotto Heaven North Nether slash in his hand was also extremely weak. Although the attack just now had the power of a supreme saint weapon, his cultivation was only at the first heaven. He had no advantage in front of a third heaven. If not for the supreme saint weapon, he would have been killed by the heaven demon monarch. Thinking about the attack just now, his heart was still trembling. The third heaven was never something that the first heaven could surpass. Heaven demon monarch's body swayed as he was shaken by the other party's attack. Anger rose in his heart. The other party's Saint Pinnacle artifact had actually blocked his attack. In his eyes, this was a complete insult. With a flash, he charged towards Dong Ho Wu once again. Instantly, a series of explosions sounded in the air, suppressing the sounds of the other battles. Two figures flashed, and the space was torn apart. Heaven shocking hammer strike. The battle between the two martial saints had stopped the other martial emperors and revered martial artists. Countless experts of the Dong Ho clan had been killed. At this moment, the heaven demon monarch found a good opportunity. He waved the heaven-shocking hammer in his hand and smashed it ruthlessly. Immediately, the sky trembled and the villages shattered. This destructive power, pure strength, seemed to want to destroy the entire world. East Marquis Wu Wen's eyes were filled with fear. At this moment, he no longer had the power to resist. At the start, he had been suppressed and had suffered many serious injuries. Even at his peak, he might not have been able to withstand this destructive attack, let alone now. He circulated all his true essence and made a desperate attack. The space was torn apart by a strange aura. The destructive strike of a martial saint expert had a terrifying aura. Within 1,000 miles of Dong Ho's house, everyone could feel the destructive aura. Countless curious warriors had already retreated. Boom! With a loud explosion, the mansion of Dong Ho clan was razed to the ground. Countless disciples were killed, and all the martial artists below the martial emperor realm were killed. East Marquis Wu Wen's body was thrown out. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, and his life force was almost gone. However, there was a sinister smile in his eyes. Chu Tianlan and the others felt that something was wrong, but they couldn't pinpoint exactly what was wrong. All of them felt that this was an illusion because the Dong Ho clan had already been destroyed. Only a few revered martial artists and martial emperors were left. One of the other party's martial saints had fallen. He still had a martial saint expert on his side. It would only take him a little time to wipe out Dong Ho clan. Extreme Emperor shocking world record. At this moment, a faint voice appeared in the sky. The voice was ethereal, but it had a powerful shock, as if a god had descended. All the martial artists trembled in front of this voice and were finally suppressed to the ground. A mysterious beam of light pressed down on Heavenly Demon Monarch in the sky. Its power was shocking, and the sky seemed to be sealed. Heavenly Demon Monarch had just used his full strength to unleash a heaven-shaking hammer strike, and he had consumed more than half of his demonic powers. Before he could react, he was trapped by this mysterious light. He could only watch as the mysterious light smashed down with destructive power. This mysterious light was like the might of the heavens, making people submit and worship it. Upon seeing this, Sky Demon King, Chu Tianlan, and company understood that the true expert of Dong Ho family wasn't Dong Ho Wuwen, but this hidden expert. Dong Ho Wuwen had only come out to exhaust the Heaven Demon King's cultivation level and attract his attention. He wanted to create an opportunity for the Dong Ho family's experts. Now, Dong Ho Wuwen had sacrificed his life in exchange for the opportunity to destroy the Heaven Demon King. The space was extremely quiet. The destructive light slowly descended. The speed seemed slow, but it was actually very fast. In front of this light, Heavenly Demon Monarch's eyes were filled with despair. Normally, he would definitely have a chance to block it because the other party was only an expert at the peak of the third sky of the Martial Saint realm. There was a difference in their cultivation, but it was not to the extent that he could not fight back. Sky Demon. When the jade-eyed beast saw that the Sky Demon Monarch was about to be killed, it immediately became anxious and roared. However, with his current strength, he could not move at all. This was the power of his realm. A difference of one level was like two worlds. You're courting death. At this moment, another voice sounded in the air. When this voice sounded, a destructive force smashed down on the third heaven expert who had used the royal shocking world record. At the same time, a strange shield spun and crashed toward the Heavenly Demon King like a cloud. Divine Heaven-Splitting Shield. Ming Luo, you're here. When Heavenly Demon King heard the familiar voice in the sky and saw the familiar shield, he immediately became excited. His heart ached. His battle companion was still useful. At a critical moment, his companion was the one who was worried about him. With Martial Saint Ming Luo's arrival, he would be saved. At the same time, the jade-eyed beast on the ground also felt at ease. Chu Tianlan heard the Heavenly Monster King's voice. Although she didn't know why the Heavenly Monster King was so excited, she knew that another expert had arrived. 3 destruction styles. The Ming family? In the air, the white-haired old man who had used the royal shocking world record cried out in alarm. His eyes revealed a look of fear. Similarly, after his terrified expression, he revealed a trace of anger and a trace of unwillingness. He had used such a price, but he still failed. Now, he had no way out. He couldn't kill the Heaven Demon Monarch. He still had the 3 destruction styles behind him. If he didn't give up, he could only wait for destruction. Moreover, as long as the Heavenly Demon King was rescued, the 2 Third Firmament Martial Saints would join forces and kill him even if he was at the peak Third Firmament perfection. His eyes revealed a strange light, and his face was determined. He pressed his hands together, and the destructive light pressed down. This move was a suicidal move. The Heavenly Demon King, Martial Saint Ming Luo, and all the experts present did not expect this to happen. In everyone's opinion, the white-haired elder would withdraw his attack and allow the Heaven Demon Monarch's companions to successfully rescue him. However, he did not know why the white-haired old man would choose to die together with him. Boom! Boom! In the blink of an eye, 2 muffled sounds rang out in the air. The extreme royal shocking world record's radiance struck the Sky Demon Monarch. The radiance collided with the divine heaven-splitting shield. Space tore apart. The Sky Demon Monarch spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. At the same time, the white-haired old man was also struck by the 3 destruction styles. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face was pale. His body retreated 100 meters, and he was extremely weak. 3 destruction stances, destruction of the heavens and earth. Marshal Saint Ming Luo didn't expect his opponent to perish together with him. At this moment, the heavenly demon king was heavily injured. How could he not be angry? He unleashed all his quintessential essence and the 3 destruction styles. A destructive fist shadow blasted out, and a hole was pierced through the space by this fist shadow. At the same time, his body flashed and shot toward the heavenly demon king on the ground. He grabbed the heavenly demon king with one hand and a halo appeared. At the same time, it surrounded the jade-eyed beast and Chu Tianlan. His body flashed and he retreated rapidly, floating in the air far away. Boom! After everything was done, the domineering 3 destruction styles finally struck the white-haired old man. The destructive attack could have destroyed the injured white-haired old man who had no way to fight back, but the 3 destructive moves were swallowed by a strange halo in the air. Seeing this, Marshal Saint Ming Luo was shocked. She didn't dare to stay any longer. She quickly flashed and wanted to escape. As he fled, he did not forget to launch an attack on the ground. The destructive attack hit the empty ground and woke up the experts of the prefecture. It's too late to leave. The white-haired elder's figure flashed and he appeared in front of Marshal Saint Ming Luo, blocking her path. His eyes were blood-red, and his aura was shocking. His cultivation realm had already broken through to the 4th heaven. Marshal Saint Ming Luo was extremely shocked. He knew that the white-haired expert before him had used a secret technique and paid a heaven-defying price to block his attack and temporarily increase his cultivation. This change was only temporary, and the other party would have to pay a heavy price. However, now that the other party was at the 4th heaven, he could easily kill him. Furthermore, he had brought the heavenly monster king, Chu Tianlan, and the jade-eyed beast with him. Even if he was empty-handed, he was no match for the white-haired expert. For a moment, he was at a loss. Chapter 594, In the Moment of a Finger. Chu Tianlan looked at the white-haired old man's condition. Even if he wasn't a martial saint, he understood the current situation. The white-haired old man used a secret technique, causing his cultivation to soar and his injuries to recover. The people around young master didn't forget him when they saved their companions. They were extremely grateful. He was sure that it was Li Lingtian's intention, but given the current situation, no one could leave. Ming Luo, leave quickly. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave. The moment Heavenly Demon King saw Marshal Saint Ming Luo, he knew what was going on. Young master was worried about him, so he sent Marshal Saint Ming Luo to attack secretly. He was extremely grateful. He understood that the young master knew that his schemes couldn't win against humans, which was why he had asked Ming Luo to come. At this time, if Ming Luo brought them along, everyone would definitely die here. If Ming Luo left alone, there was still a chance. Shut up. Young master said that I should bring the 3 of you back. Otherwise, I would be failing my duty. Marshal Saint Ming Luo snorted coldly. Her heart was racing as she tried to find a way to escape from this place. As long as they escaped and informed the young master, they would have a chance to be rescued. Although the voice was fierce, Chu Tianlan and the other 2 didn't hear any viciousness in it. Instead, it sounded like concern. True companions could only be seen in the most dangerous times. I don't want to fight with you. If you escape, the young master will have another helper. If everyone stays, who will protect the young master? The Heavenly Demon King shouted loudly. His eyes were blood-red and he wanted to struggle, but he was trapped by Marshal Saint Ming Luo's halo. Hee, it's impossible for you to leave. Just wait to die. The white-haired old man's eyes were blood-red, and the aura around his body became stronger and stronger. His eyes were filled with a bloodthirsty smile, as terrifying as a monster that wanted to devour people. Humph, let's see how long you can last. Do you think you can kill me in a short time? Marshal Saint Ming Luo's figure flashed as she flew around the white-haired elder. As long as she left this place and fled to the Li residence, Li Lingtian would discover her. Bang! However, as soon as it flew out, it was rebounded by a destructive force. Marshal Saint Ming Luo was extremely shocked. In front of this white-haired old man, he had only reached the fourth heaven temporarily, but he was already so powerful. Pfft! He spat out a mouthful of blood, his face pale and powerless. You know that I've only reached the fourth heaven temporarily. Do you think I'll stall for time? Die. The white-haired old man's aura reached its peak. He grabbed at the air with one hand and a stream of pure spiritual qi turned into a giant sword, which struck toward Marshal Saint Ming Luo. The attack came casually, and there was no move at all. It was completely the purest spiritual energy in the air. At this stage, there was no need for any skills or treasures. As long as one's cultivation was strong, any movement would carry destructive power. The destructive spirit energy sword was about to strike Marshal Saint Ming Luo. As long as she was struck, Marshal Saint Ming Luo would die. The heavenly monster king, Chu Tianlan, and the jade-eyed beast would all be killed. In the county city, countless experts looked at the situation in the sky with shock in their eyes. He had never expected that the prefecture's cleanup of the family would actually attract so many martial saints, and they were so abnormally powerful. The battle between the martial saints had exceeded the imagination of all the powerhouses. Looking at the giant sword of spiritual energy that was destroyed in the air, everyone knew that the Chu family's world was over. The Chu family's backing was about to be destroyed. However, at this moment, the giant sword of spiritual energy in the air strangely stopped moving in the air. Countless experts in Nandu County were puzzled by this situation. Only the white-haired old man's expression became fearful. On the contrary, Marshal Saint Ming Luo's eyes were filled with passion and worship. Heavenly Demon Monarch and company also discovered the situation in the sky. They looked at the spirit energy sword in the distance in shock. The giant sword of spiritual energy was held in the air by a strange force and could not move at all. At this moment, Marshal Saint Ming Luo was the first to react. With a flash, she brought Heavenly Demon King and the others out of the attack range of the giant sword. Trash! In the sky, a figure appeared strangely. The figure was elegant and elegant. The extraordinary temperament of the entire person made all the martial artists admire and worship him. This figure was obviously a young man. However, this figure was wearing a silver mask. Only his eyes and mouth could be seen. As for the rest, they had no idea what this young man looked like. But at this moment, no matter how this young man looked, he was stunning. This was because even the spiritual energy giant sword condensed by the fourth sky of the martial saint realm could easily block it. Moreover, no one knew what method this young man used. The giant sword was held up in the air. The position where the young man was standing was not on the same line of balance as the giant sword. It did not seem like the young man had attacked at all. The voice came out of the young man's mouth, but no one knew the change in the young man's expression. However, his voice was cold, as if it came from the underworld. The young man's hands that were behind his back hung down. One of his hands flicked the air, and the huge sword condensed from spiritual energy quickly dissipated. Pfft! The white-haired old man's attack was destroyed and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes revealed a look of fear. This masked young man was too mysterious and terrifying. His methods were shocking and simply unimaginable. Who are you? The white-haired old man did not show any signs of anger when he heard the young man call him trash. However, all the martialists in the city were shocked. A martial saint was actually called trash. What kind of concept was this? If even a martial saint was trash, what else was a genius? You shouldn't have come to this place. You met someone you shouldn't have met, so you can only destroy. The silver-masked youth was naturally Li Lingtian. With his divine sense and the cold ice flames on Heaven Demon King's heaven-startling hammer, he sensed that Heaven Demon King was in danger. At the same time, he also discovered that Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others were in danger. This was the perception of heaven and earth after the five elements Tao intent. No matter how big the city was, he could use his consciousness and perception to control everything. Therefore, he rushed here at the first moment and found out how terrifying the white-haired old man was. When the white-haired old man increased his cultivation, he arrived, but he never showed up. Hearing Marshal Saint Ming Luo and Heavenly Demon King's conversation, he was extremely satisfied. It was worth it to have such a subordinate. No matter who you are, if you want to kill me, you have to pay the price. The white-haired old man was terrified. He felt the threat of death when facing this young man. This feeling was like meeting a super expert at the fifth or sixth sky of the Saint Realm. Not daring to be long-winded anymore, he circulated the true essence in his entire body. Ignorant. Li Lingtian snorted coldly as he glared at the white-haired elder. With a wave of his hand, a murderous aura appeared between heaven and earth. A sword ray with sword momentum tore through the void and slashed straight at the white-haired old man at an extremely fast speed. Tisk. Pft. The white-haired old man was still circulating his true essence, but Li Lingtian's moves were unleashed at will. There was no need for him to circulate his cultivation. Naturally, he was extremely fast. However, before the sword light with sword force hit the white-haired old man, a tiny bloody hole appeared between the old man's eyebrows. The white-haired old man also stopped circulating his true essence. His eyes were dull and ashen. Then, a sharp sword light split the white-haired old man in half. In the air, the young man's figure disappeared strangely, coming and going without a trace. In just 10 seconds, the young man appeared strangely to block the giant sword of spiritual energy. He destroyed a fourth heaven martial saint like the white-haired old man with one sword strike and disappeared strangely at the same time. In 10 seconds, a heaven-defying change occurred. However, no one had seen the young man's face from the beginning to the end. They did not know who this young man was. The air quieted down. However, the momentary silence was broken by Marshal Saint Ming Luo's attack. Marshal Saint Ming Luo's destructive attack landed on the sky above Dongho clan. Countless martial emperors and revered martial artists were killed instantly. He was at the third sky of the martial saint realm. He could not defeat a fourth sky expert, but it was easier for him to kill some martial emperors and martial venerables than to kill ants. Dongho family vanished into thin air after the attack. Marshal Saint Ming Luo left with the three of them. When they returned to the Li residence, they saw Li Lingtian in the hall. The silver mask on Li Lingtian's face had been removed. Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others naturally knew that Li Lingtian had saved them. This subordinate did not do his job well. Please punish me, young master. The heavenly monster king stepped forward and bowed to Li Lingtian. He half knelt on the ground and dared not raise his head. Forget it, you can't be blamed for this. Take this pill to treat your injuries. Chu Tianlan, go back and settle the matters in Nandu County for me. These things shouldn't be a problem for you. Li Lingtian waved his hand and lifted the heavenly monster king up with a wave of his hand. Following that, he flicked a pill and sent it in front of Heaven Demon Monarch. He looked at Chu Tianlan and spoke indifferently. His voice was calm and there was no change in expression on his face. Chu Tianlan's heart was pounding, and he wondered if Li Lingtian was displeased. However, he could only respectfully bow and leave, and quickly return to Nandu County to deal with the matter. Marshal Saint Ming Luo also went out to cultivate and recuperate. After Li Lingtian was done, he returned to the courtyard of the mansion. Tang Qingyue and the others were in the courtyard. They were overjoyed to see Li Lingtian. I didn't expect your 5 elements will to reach this level. When you unleash the 9 heaven stars, it will be even more terrifying. Huangfu Yuyan witnessed how Li Lingtian dealt with the white-haired elder spirit Qi giant sword. When Li Lingtian arrived, he unleashed the 5 elements Tao will and used its mystical power to hold the giant sword before destroying it. Outsiders might not know what Li Lingtian had done, but Huangfu Yuyan and the rest knew about it. The 5 elements Tao intent was at perfection, and its power was incomparably magical, surpassing the scope of a martial artist's imagination. However, Li Lingtian had only just mastered it and could not unleash it as he wished. Only when the 5 Tao wills were perfected to the pinnacle would the power be earth-shattering. Chapter 595, Cultivation Plans. Although the 5 elements Tao intent is powerful, I haven't fully grasped it. I can only wait for a period of time to master the 5 elements will of the way and unleash the 9 heaven stars. At that time, I'll be invincible even if I encounter an ordinary martial saint. Li Lingtian replied calmly. He would not feel invincible just because he had killed the white-haired elder who was a martial saint. The white-haired old man was caught off guard when he was killed this time. Moreover, the old man was already injured, so forcefully raising his cultivation violated the laws of heaven and earth. In front of his 5 elements Tao intent, he naturally met his nemesis. Moreover, he had displayed the 5 elements Tao intent, which could be considered as a sneak attack. If he really fought with a 3rd sky martial saint expert, he would not be a match for a martial saint at all. What Ling Tian needs to do now is to increase the 5 elements Tao intent, ice, fire, 9 heavens, and the true dragon body protection. Tang Qingyue's words hit the nail on the head. These were Li Lingtian's most crucial cultivation techniques and his trump cards. Only by improving the strongest move and cultivation method was the king's way. Ice, fire, 9 heavens. I can't level up now. After all, there isn't enough time. Although I've obtained the spiritual ice and the infinite holy flame, I'm not confident in fusing the 2 extreme attributes even if I control the ice, fire, 9 heavens. Moreover, the bottomless abyss is about to be activated. We can't be too hasty. Not only will all our previous efforts go to waste, but our impatience will also affect the cultivation of the ice, fire, 9 heavens. Li Lingtian thought for a moment and calculated the time. The bottomless abyss was about to open. He naturally could not break through in such a short period of time. Breakthrough was to choose the right time, place, and people. Often, a little mistake would affect the breakthrough and even leave behind after effects. Ice, fire, 9 heavens. He had already reached the 3rd heaven, and his power was shocking and powerful. He could only think of a way to break through after the matter of the bottomless abyss and the spiritual herbal gardens was resolved. Oh, right. This time, countless experts from Nandu County have broken through. It should be a great threat to us entering the bottomless abyss and the spiritual herbal gardens. Shun Mei recalled the time when Li Lingtian had achieved a breakthrough. Countless powerhouses had also received the enlightenment of heaven and earth and successfully achieved a breakthrough. Those who did not manage to achieve a breakthrough had their cultivation base improved significantly. Among these powerhouses, there were definitely people who wanted to enter the bottomless abyss and the spiritual herbal gardens. Therefore, their breakthroughs were no different from raising their opponents by a level. That's fine. To them, advancing a realm is heaven-defying. However, in front of me, no matter how much they advance, it's just like that. They advanced by 1 realm, and so did I. On the contrary, the gap between us has widened. After entering the bottomless abyss, generally speaking, I won't make a move. When the time comes, it'll be up to you. Li Lingtian smiled. He did not intend to obtain any treasures in the bottomless abyss, but he wanted to train Tang Qingyue and the others in the bottomless abyss. Although their cultivation had reached the martial emperor realm, they had never gone through any training, let alone fought with experts. They had not even experienced a great battle. Naturally, they could not go on like this. This time, when they entered the bottomless abyss, he did not make a move. He just needed to hold the fort from the side. If one had to talk about being tempted, it would be the spiritual herbal gardens. As a saint alchemist, he was naturally interested in precious medicinal herbs. Big brother Ling Tian, you really don't have any compassion for women. Can you bear to see us fight against those experts? Xianyuan Yingying was stunned for a moment before she leaned against Li Lingtian's side and spoke pitifully. She looked so pitiful that one could not help but feel pity for her. However, Li Lingtian completely ignored her. If this girl was pitiful, then the world would be filled with pitiful people. The other girls were also amused by Xianyuan Yingying's reaction. To be honest, looking at your delicate appearance, you won't run away when you see your opponent, right? Li Lingtian reached out and pinched Xianyuan Yingying's face as he smiled faintly. He was really worried about them. After all, those who entered the bottomless abyss were all experts above the martial emperor realm. Moreover, they were all old foxes who had been around for decades or centuries. They were not people that Tang Zimeng and the others could deal with. In the divine martial continent, apart from heaven-defying strength and cultivation, one also needed rich experience. Rich experience could only be obtained through the experience of blood and fire. Otherwise, it was impossible to obtain such rich experience. For martial artists of the same strength, one was a fledgling, while the other was experienced. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Usually, a low-level warrior who came out of the battlefield would rely on experience and killing to kill a high-level warrior. However, he had also thought about it. He would bring Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others to the bottomless abyss this time. This way, he could ensure more safety. Humph, I won't. Xianyuan Yingying pouted when she heard Li Lingtian's words. She tugged at Li Lingtian's hand and shook it coquettishly. Li Lingtian's face was filled with unwillingness, causing him to feel a wave of regret. He could not afford to provoke this little girl so easily. Right, should we go to the bottomless abyss first and wait? Huangfu Yuyan said with a smile. During this period of time, she rarely went out of the mansion. It was also a little boring. If she went out to play, she could relax the tension brought about by cultivation. Yeah, there's not much time left anyway. Let's go to the entrance of the bottomless abyss and wait. However, we still have to go to the county city and prepare some daily necessities. Tang Qingyue said. They were girls. Even if they were martial artists, they had to prepare many things to survive in the wild. For example, clothes and blankets. Girls definitely couldn't lack them. Li Lingtian's interest was piqued by their words and he nodded in agreement. Then, the group left the mansion and put on some makeup to hide their peerless grace. This way, they would not be too eye-catching. However, even if they hid their peerless looks and grace, they could not hide their stunning temperament. A group of beautiful girls surrounding a young man like Li Lingtian was eye-catching no matter where they were. However, during this period of time, shocking changes had occurred in Nandu County City. No one dared to easily cause trouble. Furthermore, judging from the temperament of Li Lingtian and the others, they were not simple people. Countless people were envious of them, but none of them came looking for trouble. Just like before, the group of girls went to the front to pick out their favorite items while Li Lingtian paid the spiritual stones from behind. Although some shops could bid wildly when they saw this, because so many girls were buying things together, and it was the man who paid the spirit stones, the men would not bargain for the sake of their face. However, the items Tang Qingyue and the others chose were not expensive. To Li Lingtian, these spiritual stones were nothing. After strolling around for half a day, Li Lingtian was finally liberated when the group of girls decided to go home. Dragging his tired body back to the mansion, Li Lingtian did not know whether to laugh or cry when he saw the group of excited girls. Spiritual stones were not a big deal. After spending a day, he would only be able to spend more than 2 million. To him, it was almost a drop in the ocean. However, after shopping for half a day, he really could not take it. He had to admit that no matter how heaven-defying he was definitely no match for girls when it came to shopping. She also understood that men were inferior to girls in some ways. After returning to the mansion, the group of girls hurriedly washed the beautiful clothes they had bought and left them to cool by the garden in the mansion. Instantly, the entire garden was filled with colorful clothes. Li Lingtian felt that the yin was strong and the yang was weak. They were all a group of beautiful girls, but he had become the green dot among the flowers. He sat cross-legged and began to meditate to recover his strength. However, 2 hours had passed and his stamina had indeed recovered. However, just as he regained his stamina, a group of girls dragged Li Lingtian to the depths of the mansion. Qingping helped Li Lingtian move a chair to sit in the middle of the courtyard. Then, the girls passed out the clothes that they had bought and dried, one after another, like butterflies. All kinds of beautiful light clothes were simply tailor-made for them. For a moment, Li Lingtian felt as if he had entered the 9 heavens realm. The girls before him were like the 9 heavens goddess. For more than an hour, each of them had bought a dozen sets of clothes and tried them on once. Li Lingtian was dazzled by the sight. He kept praising them. Indeed, the value of these clothes could only be seen when they were worn by Tang Qingyue and the others. A faint smile appeared on his face. These beautiful women were all his. How is it? Pretty, right? Tang Zimeng came to Li Lingtian's side in a beautiful dress. She twirled her clothes with her slender hands and posed beautifully as she asked with a smile. Very good, very good. These clothes can only show their value on you. Li Lingtian spoke earnestly and sincerely from the bottom of his heart. Tang Zimeng and the rest were indeed peerless beauties. I bought quite a lot today. During this period of time, it's enough for us to go to the bottomless abyss. Huangfu Yuyan and the others came to Li Lingtian's side and surrounded him. The fragrance wafted into Li Lingtian's nose and he almost got carried away. Then let's rest in the mansion for the night. Tomorrow, we'll go to the bottomless abyss. It took Li Lingtian a while to react. His dazed expression made the girls laugh happily because Li Lingtian's actions proved their beauty and charm. Yes, I'll have a good rest today. After that, they returned to their rooms to rest. After all, going to the bottomless abyss would mean facing any challenges and dangers. Now that they finally had a peaceful day, they naturally had to rest well. That night, Qingping and Qingling lay beside Li Lingtian. However, the 2 ladies did not do anything as they stuck close to Li Lingtian. During this period of time, Qingping was no longer as shy as she was at the beginning. Instead, she was infatuated. Nevertheless, she knew her place. Knowing her identity, she only needed to quietly follow Li Lingtian. Chapter 596, Settling Down. At the edge of the boundless ocean, a spaceship flew quickly toward the center of the ocean. On the spaceship, Li Lingtian, Tang Qingyue, and the others were enjoying the scenery by the sea and the surging waters. This time, Li Lingtian and the others had prepared quite a bit for their trip to the bottomless abyss after leaving Nandu County. Seeing that the bottomless abyss was about to open in 10 days, Li Lingtian and the rest did not delay any longer and flew toward the island. Big brother, did you get the bottomless abyss wrong? 1 foot Ge tugged at Li Lingtian's shirt with a happy expression on her face. He had been staying in the mansion for a long time and was a little tired of it. Now that he came out, he was naturally in a good mood. A powerhouse like Li Lingtian would never lose his way, yet Ge had to tease him like this. You've learned from them. Even Big Brother is here to tease you. Li Lingtian smiled as he caressed Ge's silky hair. Her silky hair was draped behind her back, making her look extremely adorable. As he spoke, he pointed at Tang Zimeng, Xianyuan Yingying, and Little White. The three of them were the most lively and mischievous. If he wanted to say that they were bad, he would have to follow them. Big brother Ling Tian, how did you learn from us? Ge was always like this. Tang Zimeng did not give in and immediately acted coquettishly with Li Lingtian. For a moment, the group of girls laughed. Right, Ling Tian, there are countless powerhouses who came to the bottomless abyss this time. Should we return to the divine dragon ring first? Tang Qingyue asked Li Lingtian as she thought of the most important thing. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on Li Lingtian. The experts who came here were all existences above the martial emperor realm. Their group did not have much experience. If others saw such a large group of beautiful women together, they would definitely be the most dazzling. No need. This time, I will push you out and let the world know of your existence. Let them know that you're my woman. If they dare to provoke me, I'll crush them and make the entire Xian continent disappear. Li Lingtian had a faint smile on his face. As he spoke, he exuded a supreme aura as if he was the ruler of the world. The group of girls were stunned by his domineering aura. In the past, although Li Lingtian was powerful, he kept a low profile and rarely spoke in such a domineering manner. Now, however, Li Lingtian was as powerful as a sharp heavenly sword. Upon hearing Li Lingtian's words, the girls were extremely happy. This strong and heaven-defying man was their man. While he was strong and heaven-defying on the outside, he was extremely gentle in front of them. That's great. When the time comes, I'll let them see that big brother Ling Tian is the true genius and the true powerhouse in this world. Xianyuan Yingying spoke in a sweet voice. Her face was flushed red and she was extremely happy as she looked at Li Lingtian with admiration. With your cultivation base, even a martial saint wouldn't dare to provoke you. All schemes and plots can be ruthlessly crushed. Xiao Bai was also very happy. A strong person should have the personality and demeanor of a strong person. In the past, Li Lingtian had always kept a low profile, but now, he had risen to prominence. However, even though he was strong and powerful, he would always think twice before doing anything. Tang Qingyue and the others were speechless when they heard Li Lingtian's words. Li Lingtian had his reasons for making such arrangements. As his woman, she naturally had to support him silently. The spaceship was flying at high speed. From time to time, they would bump into a spaceship headed toward the bottomless abyss. When they saw Li Lingtian, they were all shocked and envious. Greed was more of it. In the divine martial continent, the strong pursued nothing but status, power, money, and women. Li Lingtian was surrounded by peerless beauties, and there was a large group of them at that. Naturally, it attracted the greed and jealousy of the other powerhouses. However, they did not dare to cause trouble easily. After all, they were heading to the bottomless abyss this time. Before they obtained any treasures, they did not want to cause trouble. Moreover, these beauties were all peerless beauties. Each of them was a rare beauty in the divine martial continent. One of them was already stunning. Now that a large group of them had gathered together, it was definitely not that simple. The ship flew quickly in the boundless sea, but it felt boring after a long time. However, Li Lingtian and the others gathered together and chatted about their past. They listened attentively as they were alarmed by Li Lingtian's encounter. Every time Li Lingtian encountered a situation, he had a slim chance of survival and had walked out from the brink of death. Although they had heard Li Lingtian mention it before, it sounded different now that he repeated it. This was because what used to be a story was now a life and a legend. It was something that Li Lingtian had encountered and experienced in the past decade. Although the girls by Li Lingtian's side had been following him for a long time, none of them had been with him from the beginning to the end. They either separated halfway or missed the opportunity. Now that Li Lingtian had recounted everything, the girls were excited and worried. Heaven has bestowed a great responsibility on him. Ling Tian has gone through so many hardships to obtain such heaven-defying strength. Every single bit of strength has to be obtained through countless hardships. Big Brother's luck is very good, but this is something that only someone with guts and courage can achieve. Big Brother Ling Tian's heaven-defying abilities are directly proportional to your hard work. All of a sudden, the girls revealed their motherly gentleness. They knew that Li Lingtian had gone through countless hardships in the past decade, but they did not expect him to go through so many trials of death. Li Lingtian felt warm and happy when he saw the girls' expressions. As they chatted, time passed unknowingly. At the same time, the spaceship arrived in front of the island in the bottomless abyss. The last time she came here, Little White had also been here. Naturally, she remembered the location. Without any mistakes, she finally arrived on the island. When they arrived, there were already countless experts gathered on this island. When Li Lingtian and the others arrived on the island, they attracted the attention of countless powerhouses. The main reason was because of a group of peerless beauties. Moreover, these beauties were surrounding a young man. This was the biggest highlight. The group of peerless beauties were all martial emperors, and they were the kind with very deep strength. Women rarely reached the rank of a martial emperor. Only those favored by the heavens had the chance to become a martial emperor. A martial emperor girl was the most attractive to men. A peerless beauty, coupled with a powerful cultivation, was undoubtedly a fatal temptation. Moreover, these beauties were all surrounding a young man. This young man looked like a martial honor. There were also 4 middle-aged men beside him. One look and one could tell that they were guards. These guards were all martial honors, but in this place, martial honors were nothing. This way, countless martial artists became much bolder. Countless eyes were on Tang Qingyue and the others. Tang Qingyue's icy aura made her look like an icy beauty. Huang Fu Yuyan had a noble temperament. Tang Zimeng and Ji Yi were all peerless beauties. They were so beautiful that it made one's heart tremble. In an instant, countless voices of discussion rang out and they would occasionally look at Li Lingtian and the others' spaceship. Come, let's go down. Li Lingtian did not pay any attention to these so-called powerhouses. A girl who was too beautiful would naturally attract the attention of others. He couldn't control what other people thought of him. Besides, if they were noticed by these powerhouses, it would prove that Tang Qingyue and the others were outstanding. As long as he did not provoke Tang Qingyue and the others, Li Lingtian would not mind. Similarly, he could not insult them. If he offended Tang Qingyue and the others, he would be courting death. Yes. Tang Qingyue and the others glanced at the experts on the island and nodded. Then, the spaceship stopped and landed on the island. On the other hand, Marshal Saint Ming Luo was looking for a place to settle down. After all, Li Lingtian had too many womenfolk by his side, so he could not stay in the open. The island wasn't big. It was only 50 miles in radius. There were already hundreds of experts on it. It was harder than ascending to the heavens to find an uninhabited cave. Sir, we want this place. You guys leave. Marshal Saint Ming Luo's eyes were cold as she looked at the dozen experts in front of a valley and said indifferently. After saying that, he threw out a high-grade heaven artifact. He would exchange this heaven artifact for this place. To Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others, they would take whatever they had to take as long as it was necessary because it was what Li Lingtian needed. Besides, they didn't lack spirit stones and treasures. A high-grade celestial artifact is too little. Besides, we came here first. Do you want to snatch it by force? A 7th-level martial honored realm expert looked at the upper-grade celestial weapon in his hand. This celestial weapon was much more powerful than the mid-grade celestial weapon he used before. However, seeing Marshal Saint Ming Luo use an upper-grade celestial weapon, he naturally wouldn't let it go so easily. He wouldn't give it up until he got more benefits. Greed is only courting death. I'll give you 3 seconds to leave. Otherwise, Marshal Saint Ming Luo saw Li Lingtian and the others coming from behind. If she could not even handle this matter, she would not have the face to follow Li Lingtian. After saying that, a terrifying aura emanated from his entire body. His eyes were like sharp swords as he stared at the dozen or so experts. The other party was a Supreme Realm expert. On the surface, their strength and cultivation were much stronger than Marshal Saint Ming Luo's. You're courting death. The 7th level Martial Honored Realm expert was furious when he saw Marshal Saint Ming Luo being so arrogant. His side was a Martial Honored Realm expert, and he was a 7th level Martial Honored Realm expert. If he retreated just like that, what face would he have? The vital essence in his entire body revolved, and an aura burst out. A terrifying Supreme Realm aura pressed down on Marshal Saint Ming Luo. In front of this aura, the dozen or so experts smiled as if they had seen Marshal Saint Ming Luo being killed. However, the moment their smiles appeared, they turned ashen. That was because the aura of a 7th level Supreme Realm expert was like a clay ox entering the sea when it bombarded the other party. It disappeared without a trace. Moreover, the other party's terrifying pressure directly crushed towards them. This pressure made them unable to resist at all. Chapter 597, Gathering of Experts. Martial Saint. More than 10 Supreme Realm experts exclaimed. They were all in the Martial Honored Realm. Although they had never dealt with a Martial Saint, they had seen the pressure of a Martial Saint. This powerhouse in front of him, this pressure and aura, was something that only a Martial Saint powerhouse could possess. No wonder he was so arrogant. It turned out that he was a Martial Saint expert who had hidden his cultivation. You can leave, but he wants to stay. Watch your mouth, or else. Marshal Saint Ming Luo's eyes were cold as she increased her pressure. The destructive pressure pressed the 7th level Supreme Realm expert to the ground. Instantly, the 7th level Supreme Realm expert's eyes were filled with fear and finally turned into ashes. At this time, the 7th level Supreme Realm was already dead. More than 10 Supreme Realm experts were all extremely shocked. A 7th level Supreme Realm expert was actually killed by a pressure. How could they not be afraid? Instantly, their bodies began to tremble. However, Marshal Saint Ming Luo withdrew her pressure at this moment. She glanced at the dozen revered martial artists with a sharp gaze and said indifferently, I will definitely not speak nonsense. Junior will take his leave first. Thank you for showing mercy, Senior. All of a sudden, more than 10 revered martial artists sat on the ground. After hearing Marshal Saint Ming Luo's words, they ran away quickly as if they had been pardoned. By the time they left, Li Lingtian and the others had arrived. He completely ignored these martial artists who were like stray dogs. This was because this world was a world where the strong reigned supreme. If their forces were strong, Marshal Saint Ming Luo would not have chased them away. He came to the front of the canyon and scanned it with his divine sense. This canyon was only 1 mile long and 20 meters wide. The canyon was nothing more than 2 precipices. Li Lingtian scanned the area with his divine perception and found it safe. He then moved his body and cast a series of formations. The place had become a safe place. Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the other 3 were meditating in front of the canyon. Li Lingtian and the rest entered the canyon to rest. A restriction was cast and the canyon disappeared. This canyon is really not bad. It's just nice for us to rest here for a while. Tang Qingyue's cold aura disappeared, replaced by a gentle aura. She held Li Lingtian's arm with her jade-like hands and walked inside. The other girls were also elated as they looked around. After staying in the mansion for a long time, living outside really had a different flavor. I won't be staying for long, because the bottomless abyss is about to appear. Huangfu Yuyan said. When she left the mansion, there was still half a month before the bottomless abyss opened. However, she had spent a few days on the flying ship. Naturally, he didn't have much time to stay here. Moreover, there was no pattern to the opening of the bottomless abyss. It was normal for it to open for 10 days. Then rest well for a few days. Otherwise, you won't have the chance to rest after entering the bottomless abyss. Ge said with a smile. Following that, Li Lingtian cast restriction spells in the canyon. For an array master like him, he could use arrays to create countless rooms even in an empty space. It was no different from the real world. In fact, it was not a problem to not cast a restriction in this place. After all, everyone here was close to Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian was the only man here and there were no outsiders. Soon, more than 10 rooms appeared. Although they were created by restrictions, it was still safe to live in. When you enter the bottomless abyss, enter the divine dragon ring first. You can come out when you're in the abyss. But this time, you'll be divided into 2 groups and take turns every day. In this way, you should be almost done with your training in half a year. In this case, with Long Da and the rest of us holding the line for you, you can truly experience the battle and discover the experience and danger. After staying in the canyon for 5 to 6 days, the girls were extremely happy. The fresh air and spiritual energy made people's hearts flutter. However, the good days were not long because the bottomless abyss was about to open. With Li Lingtian's cultivation base, his powerful array Dao, and his perception of the heaven and earth 5 elements formation, he naturally knew that there was movement in the bottomless abyss and the time to activate it was just around the corner. Li Lingtian gathered the girls together and spoke in a serious tone. There were a total of 11 girls by his side, including the maids. He naturally could not protect 11 girls well. If they were to rotate in 2 batches, it would be another matter. With the 5 girls outside, Li Lingtian's strength and Long Da's group of 4 would not pose much of a threat even if they were to encounter a martial saint powerhouse. Therefore, he told them his plan. After he finished speaking, he looked at Huangfu Yuyan and the others. Among his wives, Huangfu Yuyan and Tang Qingyue were the main ones. It was not that Li Lingtian was biased towards the 2 of them, but their experience, knowledge, and general knowledge were broader. When dealing with matters, he was more aware of the big picture and had a better grasp of the overall situation. This would save Li Lingtian a lot of trouble. Yes, your arrangement is very good. That's right. We'll split into 2 groups. When the time comes, we'll distribute them according to the strength of our cultivation. This way, when the strength is strong, you can also control some of the rhythm. If the strength is weak, you can directly kill the experts when you encounter them. Huangfu Yuyan and Tang Qingyue nodded in agreement with Li Lingtian's plan. Big brother Ling Tian's plan is the best. We'll distribute it according to our cultivation level later. Tang Zimeng said happily. Although they were all martial emperors, they had never really fought with an enemy and had no chance to do so. Now that they had the opportunity to gain experience, they could improve their knowledge and experience. This was an opportunity that could only be met by luck, because other martial artists' experiential learning would bring about life-threatening dangers. Even if they were to experience danger, with a super expert by their side, the danger would be greatly reduced. Husband, I'm afraid it's not good to train like this. Because with you by our side, we all know that the danger is not great. Without the experience of blood and fire, we can't truly grow strong. Shan Mei pointed out the disadvantages of the experience training. Although the experience training in the bottomless abyss could increase one's knowledge and gain countless combat experience, it could not grow like Li Lingtian. After Shan Mei finished speaking, the group of girls turned to look at Li Lingtian. What Shan Mei said made sense and was a crucial point. I understand, but this time, I have a plan. As long as you fight to a certain extent, I will be satisfied. In the future, the place where you will truly train will not be here. There are many other places where you can train. When that time comes, you will be able to truly grow stronger. Li Lingtian was aware of this logic, but he had already made up his mind. No matter what kind of experience it was, there was always a process. People would slowly improve and grow. After this experience, Tang Qingyue and the others had generally improved. When the time came, they would go to other places to experience and truly grow. In the future, there would still be many places to train, such as the spiritual herbal gardens, Lord Nandun, Qing Xian, and even the wars between the various countries, the chess games between the kingdoms, and finally the hegemony of the empires. All of these would require a process. This was a long and arduous journey, but it was also a great journey. It's fine as long as you have arrangements. There are still many places to train in the future. When the time comes, we will definitely be able to become true martial artists. Huangfu Yuyan nodded. She understood what Li Lingtian wanted to do. If he wanted to gain a foothold in Xianzhou, he had to conquer Xianzhou and make Xianzhou tremble under his feet. Alright, you guys go back to the Divine Dragon Ring first. It seems that there will be some movement in the bottomless abyss today. I'll be enough by then. Li Lingtian furrowed his brows as he spoke indifferently. He had already sensed the fluctuation in the space. This fluctuation came from the heaven and earth 5 elements formation. In other words, the bottomless abyss was about to open. When the time came, he would have to deal with all the experts. He naturally could not divert his attention to Tang Qingyue and the others. Moreover, at this time, the experts had gathered. He could not let them be exposed. Alright, we'll arrange it in the Divine Dragon Ring. We'll let you know when it's done. Tang Qingyue nodded and retracted her aura. Li Lingtian activated his divine consciousness and the Divine Dragon Ring was activated. Tang Qingyue and the rest disappeared and entered the Divine Dragon Ring. After he was done, a comforting smile appeared on Li Lingtian's face. As he walked out of the canyon, Longde and the other 3 were already waiting for him. When they saw Li Lingtian, they bowed respectfully. Young master, the experts who should have come have basically arrived. There are more than 700 martial monarchs, 800 martial honors, 500 martial emperors, and quite a few 8th or 9th heavenly layer martial emperors. We've discovered 7 martial saints, but 2 of them are hidden. We can't tell their cultivation level for a while. Ying's strength is terrifying. As for the powerhouses behind us, there should still be martial saints and super martial emperors. The powerhouses on General Long's island secretly did a headcount and gave Li Lingtian a rough estimate. Martial emperors and martial supremacies were not in their sights at all. Their goal was to focus on martial saints. The only ones who could really affect them were martial saints. 7 martial saints, plus the 2 who are hiding their cultivation, that makes 9. There should be quite a number of super experts coming later. These experts all like to arrive at the last moment. When you go in, enter the Divine Dragon Ring. That way, we won't separate. After they separate, we'll kill them all one by one. Li Lingtian's eyes were filled with killing intent. There were no martial saints in Nandu County and neither was there a martial saint in Qingxian. Even if there were a martial saint powerhouse, they were the pillars of the country and would not come here. Since he wasn't a martial saint from Qingxian or Nandu County, he would be an enemy in the future. If he was an enemy, he would have to kill him when he had the chance to, so as to avoid any future troubles. If they could subdue it, then so be it. That way, they could increase their strength. He had already started to plan what he would do after entering the abyss. Although it was dangerous this time, it was a good opportunity. Chapter 598, Powerful, 1. We understand. Longde and the other 3 bowed respectfully. They were impressed by Li Lingtian's arrangement. In any case, he was going to offend all the experts this time, so he naturally wouldn't hide anything. Moreover, everyone would be wary of Li Lingtian in this way. It would be much easier for Li Lingtian to do things then. Now, leave two outside. Of course, these people won't accept it. If they don't accept it, kill them all. We can make an exception for those in Nandu County. Li Lingtian said calmly as he looked into the void. The heaven and earth five elements formation senses were getting stronger and the entrance to the bottomless abyss would soon appear. He had to do something first, in case he was too late. Soon, Longda and the others had made the arrangements. Heavenly Monster King and Marshal Saint Ming Luo entered the Divine Dragon Ring. After all, when they were in Nandu County, they had attracted the attention of many experts when they wiped out Dong Ho clan. The two of them were also quite eye-catching outside. Similarly, their appearance would definitely expose his identity. He did not want to expose his identity in the bottomless abyss for the time being. Therefore, Longda and Marshal Saint Yunhao were outside. Although Longda was only at level 7, he had terrifying dragon energy and demonic power. He was not afraid even when facing a Marshal Saint. Marshal Saint Yunhao was also a third firmament Marshal Saint. With Li Lingtian's guidance, his strength was extremely terrifying. Li Lingtian also gave them a few heaven-grade mystical powers. After that, Li Lingtian put Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the Heavenly Demon King into the Divine Dragon Ring before leaving the canyon with Marshal Saint Longda and Marshal Saint Yunhao. They headed toward the place where the powerhouses gathered outside. The entire island wasn't big, but there were more than 2,000 experts gathered there. All of them were super experts. Those who could come here were all existences above the martial monarch realm. Moreover, there were martial venerables, martial emperors, and even martial saints. These experts were all fighting for the mysterious resources of the bottomless abyss and also wanted to train in the bottomless abyss. The competition this time was no longer a competition between low-level disciples, but a game between super experts. Therefore, the intensity of the competition this time could be imagined. Li Lingtian's arrival attracted the attention of many powerhouses. He was elegant and his entire body emitted an ethereal aura. That extraordinary temperament attracted the attention of countless experts. Those who could make it here were at least martial emperors. For a young man like Li Lingtian to reach the rank of a martial emperor, he was a heaven-defying monster. In the divine martial continent, although many experts retained their youthful looks, their true age could still be seen with a single glance. Li Lingtian was only 23 or 24 years old and looked like he was only 17 or 18 years old. No one dared to underestimate his temperament and elegance. More importantly, there were two experts beside him. One was tall and mighty, and the other was of medium build, but they gave off a terrifying sense of threat. Li Lingtian arrived at the edge of the island with his hands behind his back, completely ignoring all the powerhouses. He walked through the crowd of experts with a calm expression on his face. A faint smile appeared on his face as he looked at the void. The aura of looking down on the world was unintentionally emitted, and people had to pay attention to it. The bottomless abyss is finally about to open. Li Lingtian muttered to himself as he looked into the void and sensed the message from the heaven and earth five elements formation. All the powerhouses looked at Li Lingtian in confusion. Forget about the martial royal realm powerhouses because they knew that this young man was not to be trifled with. On the other hand, some martial honors and martial emperors were displeased because Li Lingtian had disregarded all the powerhouses in the world. A martial saint powerhouse disdained to argue with someone like Li Lingtian. It was as if their status would be lowered if they were to argue with Li Lingtian. Pa. At that moment, Longda did not wait for Li Lingtian's instructions. He turned around and clapped his hands. A loud noise was heard in the air and it attracted the attention of all the powerhouses. All the experts looked at Longda, not knowing what he was going to do. Everyone, my young master doesn't like to be interrupted when he's talking. Remember. Longda said a simple sentence and then stopped talking. There was a bloodthirsty smile on his face. As soon as Longda finished speaking, it immediately caused countless martial artists to discuss, and their faces were filled with disdain. Who do you think your young master is? Could it be that your young master is the crown prince of the kingdom? Even the crown prince wouldn't be like this. You don't know what you're talking about. Ignorant. All of a sudden, all the martial artists felt disdain. If they were to speak to someone like this, no one would dare to talk about it easily. But now, Longda was warning all the experts. In this way, all the experts were not afraid anymore. No matter how arrogant the other party was, he would not go against everyone. After all, there were martial emperors and martial saints here. Nandu County, step forward. This bottomless abyss is about to open. I believe that everyone won't waste time, right? Li Lingtian spoke calmly as he glared at all the powerhouses. However, none of the Nandu County powerhouses stepped forward as soon as he finished speaking. None of them knew what Li Lingtian was going to do. Do you think you can stand up just because you say so? The bottomless abyss has opened. What does it have to do with you? Who do you think you are? The bottomless abyss has opened. It has nothing to do with you whether you delay or not. The 3 martial monarchs and 1 martial emperor scoffed after Li Lingtian spoke. Boom! Before the 4 experts could finish speaking, their eyes revealed a look of fear and despair. That was because a destructive pressure blasted over. In the face of this pressure, even a martial emperor or martial monarch would not have the slightest intention to resist. They finally understood that the other party was not to be trifled with. They also knew that they were courting death. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Even a saint alchemist could not refine a medicine for regret. The destructive pressure came from Yunhao Martial Saint. She looked at the 4 experts who were talking with a cold gaze. Pfft! The 4 experts spat out blood and did not resist at all. The martial emperors and martial emperors were destroyed. For a moment, the entire island was silent. They were all shocked by this destructive pressure. The martial monarch and martial supremacy were stunned. Even the martial emperor powerhouses were shocked to death. The few martial saint realm experts were also shocked. Even if they could easily kill the experts here, it would not be so easy. He also thought that this middle-aged man was a martial saint expert. Moreover, he was a swift and decisive martial saint. He was completely under the command of that young man. The hearts of all the experts were shocked, and they could not stop thumping. Wasn't this too arrogant? However, no one dared to speak, because the person who spoke would be killed without a word. Not much, because someone had started to greet him. Yes, I like silence. Not bad, continue to maintain it. Li Lingtian replied calmly. His expression was calm and the smile on his lips remained. He did not care about killing a few martial emperors and martial emperors at all. Instead, he looked at all the experts indifferently. I've already given you a chance, but you didn't grasp it. The entrance to this bottomless abyss is unstable. I took a look, so I spent countless materials and energy to stabilize the entrance. Therefore, if you want to enter, you naturally can't enter for nothing. I don't want to beat around the bush, nor do I want to earn your wealth. If you want to enter safely, you have to make some contributions. You naturally won't ask me to contribute and pay, right? Therefore, a martial emperor can enter at 500 million spiritual stones per person. A martial honor can enter at 1 billion, a martial emperor can enter at 2 billion, and a martial saint can enter at 5 billion. Li Lingtian spoke at an unhurried pace. As he spoke, all the powerhouses understood. This young man had been waiting here for a long time, waiting for them to be fooled. His goal was to obtain spiritual stones. Originally, a martial royal realm expert could fork out hundreds of millions of spiritual stones, but it was not for spiritual stones. However, there were so many experts here. If they gathered all the spirit stones together, it would be a shocking fortune. Why don't you go rob them? Robbery. This bottomless abyss doesn't belong to your family. Why do you have to stabilize the entrance? Even if it's to stabilize the entrance, there's no need for so many spirit stones. Do you want the spiritual stones of a martial emperor or a martial saint? Do you not take all the experts here seriously? After Li Lingtian finished speaking, all the powerhouses held back their words. He was worried that he would be killed like the 4 powerhouses before him. However, after a long time, Li Lingtian smiled and waved his hand to signal for them to speak. All of a sudden, all the martial artists started discussing, feeling extremely aggrieved. This was because when they spoke, they needed the permission of the young man in front of them. After working for decades or centuries, this was the first time they had encountered such a grievance. The martial emperor powerhouse was furious, but he did not dare to speak first. The martial saint powerhouse looked at Li Lingtian with a smile. This bottomless abyss indeed doesn't belong to my family, but the entrance to this bottomless abyss is indeed stable. Now, it belongs to my family. If you're unhappy, you can say it. Similarly, you can choose not to enter. If you have the ability, you can enter and exit freely. I won't stop you. Li Lingtian remained smiling as he watched all the powerhouses' discussion. After a while, he made a gesture behind him and all the warriors shut up immediately. They did not speak anymore because they knew that Li Lingtian was about to speak. If they were to interrupt Li Lingtian while he was speaking, the consequences were obvious. Longde and Martial Saint Yunhao were extremely happy. They had been waiting for hundreds of years, but they had never imagined the current situation. Their young master was indeed a young master. It was not something that ordinary people could do. This courage, boldness, and strength made all the experts in the world walk within his rules. However, they did not show their joy. Instead, they looked coldly at the powerhouses before them. They were not worried that these powerhouses would deal with Li Lingtian. With Li Lingtian's cultivation base and strength, these people before him were no threat at all. I recommend the new book, Ancient Sage Myriad Ancient King. I welcome everyone to read and save it. I also want to vote for it. The new book needs everyone's support. Only with everyone's support can the new book go further. Chapter 599, Fighting a Martial Saint, 1. However, let me make it clear first. At the entrance of this bottomless abyss, I will use the heaven and earth 5 elements formation. There is a time limit. Before I enter, this array will not disappear. The time is only half an hour. Do as you see fit. Li Lingtian continued to speak indifferently, completely ignoring the unwillingness of the 2,000 powerhouses before him. After saying that, he looked at the void because he could sense that the bottomless abyss was about to open. He had added a heaven and earth 5 elements array in front of the bottomless abyss, so he had to make some preparations. If this bottomless abyss was restricted by his array, it would be over. At that time, he would definitely be attacked by all the experts. He was not afraid of the attacks of these experts, but it was a pity that it was a good training scene. You said 5 billion spirit stones. Could it be that 5 billion spirit stones are stones from the roadside? At this moment, a skinny old man at the second sky of the martial saint realm walked out. The skinny old man was extremely skinny and looked as if he could be blown away by a gust of wind. However, the old man's eyes flashed. It was obvious that he was not someone to be trifled with. The old man stopped 100 meters away from Li Lingtian and the others as he spoke calmly. His eyes were fixed on Martial Saint Yunhao. Yunhao Martial Saint had started to kill the 4 experts with her shocking pressure. In his heart, Yunhao Martial Saint was the biggest threat. As for Longde and Li Lingtian, he did not care much about them. What do you want now? Li Lingtian smiled faintly but did not get angry. Instead, he looked at the old man. He didn't answer the old man's question, but asked a question instead. If he didn't agree, he would beat him up. In this world, the strong are respected. If you want spirit stones, then look at your power. A smile appeared on the skinny old man's face, and his smile became strange and evil. What do you plan to do? Li Lingtian repeated the same sentence with a smile in his eyes. Didn't you stabilize this bottomless abyss? You should have heaven-defying strength. If you can defeat me, I'll pay 5 billion spirit stones. Otherwise, your rule won't be valid. The emaciated elder's gaze shifted from Marshal Saint Yunhao to Li Lingtian. His gaze seemed to be tangible and there was a strange sense of oppression in the air. None of the powerhouses expected the old man to have his eyes on Li Lingtian. A martial saint powerhouse challenging a martial emperor was something they felt disdain and contempt for. However, no one dared to look down on him at this time. Although the old man was despicable, it was beneficial to them. Moreover, this was a world where the strong were respected. No matter what method he used, it was a manifestation of strength. At that moment, everyone knew that Li Lingtian would lose face if he did not agree. Even if he lost face, he would not agree. After all, a martial emperor and a martial saint were two completely different worlds. There was no way to compare them. All of a sudden, the 2,000 powerhouses looked at Li Lingtian with a smile on their faces. With such a gaze, everyone gathered together and it undoubtedly put pressure on Li Lingtian. They forced Li Lingtian to accept the elder's challenge. If Li Lingtian lost, they would not have to fork out any spiritual stones. The smiles on the faces of all the martial artists were self-evident. There was not a single sound on the island. However, Longda and Marshal Saint Yunhao were smiling evilly. The old man also noticed this smile. He was stunned and felt that something was wrong. However, he could not tell what was wrong. Don't you think you're very boring? Li Lingtian said calmly as he looked at the skinny old man. He did not expect the old man to be so shameless that he would challenge him in the face of the world's powerhouses. He was utterly shameless. However, he didn't agree to it randomly. Instead, he asked the old man. In this world, the strong are respected. Since you have established the array, you have to pay a price if you want to get the spirit stones. If you don't dare, just say it. The old man felt relieved when he saw the smiles of the countless experts behind him. The abnormality from before had long disappeared. He did not believe that the young man would dare to fight him, nor did he believe that Li Lingtian and the other two would dare to offend all the powerhouses. Putting everything else aside, there were 6 or 7 martial arts saints here. The young man would definitely not dare to do so. I wouldn't dare. Li Lingtian replied with a smile. It was a matter of a few words and he did not care about it. Those 2 simple words were like a bomb that exploded. All the warriors were stunned. They did not expect Li Lingtian to be so direct. Did he not care about his dignity? Similarly, they were stunned by Li Lingtian's answer and did not know what to say. Since you don't dare, then your rules don't have to be established. The skinny old man was also stunned. He did not expect this young man to admit that he did not dare to do so in front of so many experts. Moreover, he said it so easily. His initial strength was in stark contrast to his current cowardice. He felt a wave of disdain in his heart. That's right. Since you don't dare, don't talk big. This array formation is to stabilize the entrance to the bottomless abyss. This is your own wish. We didn't force it. If you don't dare, then retreat. You still dare to ask for spirit stones? How boring. Spiritual stones are not a problem. If you dare to defeat His Excellency Qing Shao, I'll pay double the amount. Yeah, if I can defeat Qing Shao, pay double the spirit stones. All of a sudden, all the warriors exclaimed loudly when they saw Li Lingtian's aura weakening. In the end, he actually said that he would pay double the spirit stones if he defeated Qing Xiao. The entire island was bustling with activity. Countless experts began to cheer along. Li Lingtian and the other two were still smiling when they saw the powerhouse's expressions. However, they did not speak. After a long time, Li Lingtian chuckled to himself. He had achieved his goal. You can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. Remember what you said, lest you regret it later. Remember, they killed you. Li Lingtian spoke calmly as he looked at all the powerhouses. Then, he turned to look at the void as the signs of the bottomless abyss opening had appeared. He had to resolve this matter in a short period of time to avoid any delays. His gaze was like a sharp sword as he looked at the skinny old man. This skinny old man was the Qing Xiao that all the experts had mentioned. It seemed that this Qing Xiao was quite famous. After saying that, his body disappeared strangely. When he reappeared, he was already in the sky above the sea realm. He looked at all the experts below and gave off a disdainful aura, as if he was in the world. Li Lingtian's action was a shock to all the powerhouses. He actually dared to fight a martial saint. Was he courting death? However, Li Lingtian gave them the feeling that he had the confidence to defeat a martial saint. Suddenly, they felt an illusion. Swoosh! Qing Xiao did not expect Li Lingtian to agree to a fight with him. It was a stark contrast to his initial refusal. His body floated in the air, forming a balance line with Li Lingtian. The two of them stood 1,000 meters apart, staring at each other from afar. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Qing Xiao was infuriated. Li Lingtian's actions were undoubtedly a provocation and an insult. He could not tolerate it anymore. If he was challenged by a martial emperor, how could he still have the face to survive in the future? A shocking martial saint's pressure and aura burst out, and the entire space instantly shook. The terrifying pressure and destructive aura made countless martial emperors and martial supremes use their cultivation techniques to resist. They were shocked. This was the pressure and aura of a martial saint. All the experts were shocked and admired Qing Xiao in the sky. Qing Xiao's strength has improved a lot. Even I might not be his match. The few martial saint realm experts also secretly compared themselves. They were shocked by Qing Xiao's cultivation. For a moment, the space trembled. The expert did not dare to breathe too loudly and looked at the two people in the air. Compared to Qing Xiao, Li Lingtian's aura was barely discernible. All the warriors looked at Li Lingtian as if he was a dead man. Even a warrior sage's aura could crush Li Lingtian to death, let alone a battle. Alright, ignorant trash. Use your strongest attack, lest you regret it later. Li Lingtian said calmly as he secretly circulated his true essence and unleashed the true dragon body barrier. He looked at Qing Xiao. This Qing Xiao was at the second sky of the martial saint realm. He was indeed extremely powerful, but compared to the 7 demon venerables and the white-haired old man, he was on a completely different level. However, he did not dare to be careless. A battle between experts could easily be wiped out. Whoosh! Everyone was shocked. He actually called a martial saint trash when facing him. He had seen many arrogant people, but he had never seen such a domineering and arrogant person. What was arrogant? This was arrogant. How dare he be so arrogant in front of a martial saint? Die! Qing Xiao was thoroughly enraged. The pressure and aura from his entire body formed a halo and blasted toward Li Lingtian. The pressure and aura of a martial saint fused, forming a destructive halo. In his heart, only by using the simplest pressure and aura to kill the other party could he dispel the hatred in his heart. In the air, a halo flashed as it charged toward Li Lingtian regardless of the distance between them. All the experts' hearts trembled. Facing this might and pressure, they could not find any way to resist and lost their consciousness to resist. In their hearts, if they were to stand in Li Lingtian's shoes, they would only be waiting for death. However, at that moment, Li Lingtian's shocking aura suddenly exploded like a bomb. At first, there were no signs, but when he used his pressure, it was so sudden that it felt surreal. At the same time, the destructive pressure formed a five-colored halo and fiercely collided with Qing Zhao's pressure. Immediately, the space was torn apart, and strong energy shot in all directions. It was as if the end of the world had arrived in the sky. With his shocking might, all the warriors no longer dared to underestimate Li Lingtian. Instead, they felt fear and dread. This was because Li Lingtian had been concealing his cultivation base all this while. Now that he was unleashing it, it was an earth-shattering existence that could destroy the world. Chapter 600, Merging the Divine Seal and the Heavenly Sword. Boom! The two destructive auras collided, and the space was instantly torn apart. Both Li Lingtian and Qing Zhao retreated rapidly, but Li Lingtian only retreated 100 meters. However, Qing Zhao was pushed back more than 1,000 meters and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale. The collision of pressure was a confrontation of strength. Pressure and cultivation were directly proportional. The higher the cultivation, the stronger the pressure. Qing Zhao, who was at the second sky of the martial saint realm, had an earth-shattering pressure. If it was any other time, he could easily kill any martial emperor. However, this time, he met Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian's cultivation was only at the fourth firmament martial emperor realm, but he had mastered the five elements will, heaven and earth reincarnation technique, and the true dragon body barrier. The devouring light also consumed the opponent's pressure. With all of this combined, it was really asking for a beating if they were to compete in terms of pressure. Whoosh! With a loud bang, all the experts were shocked. Qing Zhao, who was at the second sky of the martial saint realm, failed to suppress the other party with his terrifying pressure. Instead, he was injured by the other party's pressure. What kind of concept was this? Even if Li Lingtian had displayed his cultivation base, they could not accept the fact that he was a fourth heaven martial emperor who defeated a martial saint with his aura. I didn't want to do it at first. But if I encounter someone who wants to die, I can only reluctantly do it. Li Lingtian had a serious expression on his face as he circulated his true essence to the maximum. The light shield of the true dragon's body barrier protected his body. The heaven and earth reincarnation art balanced the five elements will. Suddenly, the shocking destruction metal will was unleashed. The will of the golden path was for destruction. Between heaven and earth, the will of the great path was rampant. All the experts felt the aura of death. Their eyes were filled with fear as they watched the metal will of the way in the sky. They did not expect Li Lingtian to have mastered the metal will of the way. Good, very good. Then try my great samsara divine seal. Heaven and earth reincarnate, and all things are destroyed. Great samsara divine seal. Qing Zhao was extremely shocked and also showed a trace of fear. The young man in front of him was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. The cultivation of a martial monarch realm expert was actually so terrifying. He was a martial saint, so he naturally understood how terrifying the pressure was. In terms of pressure, the other party had completely defeated his martial saint's pressure. This young man could not be underestimated. Immediately, he did not dare to underestimate it anymore. Instead, he circulated the true essence in his entire body to the limit. With the flipping of spells, the aura of space also changed. All the experts looked at the sky in shock. The martial saints used super heaven-grade divine powers that were almost equivalent to forbidden techniques. They hurriedly retreated to the other end of the island and circulated their true essence to resist the threat from the outside. In the air, a huge handprint formed. The handprint was over 100 meters in size, floating in the air like the might of the heavens. The sea and the island trembled under the handprint. Killing intent also appeared in Qing Zhao's eyes. He was extremely satisfied with his great rebirth divine seal. At the same time, he was furious. He did not expect a martial emperor youth to force him to use his strongest trump card. The grand reincarnation divine seal followed Qing Zhao's magic art and struck Li Lingtian in the distance. Wherever the divine print passed, the entire space seemed to melt and shatter inch by inch. All the powerhouses were looking at the deity's mark and Li Lingtian, who was standing in the distance. Now, they no longer looked down on Li Lingtian. Even though Li Lingtian was only a martial supreme, his initial pressure was terrifying and he had once defeated a martial saint. Now that they had witnessed the mark's attack on Li Lingtian, they wanted to see who was more powerful. They wanted to see how Li Lingtian could dodge and escape. Heaven Sword Unity. Li Lingtian looked at the grand reincarnation divine seal with a serious gaze. This great samsara divine seal had a trace of the trajectory of heaven and earth, and it was similar to the heaven flipping seal. It just didn't have the will of the earth, so it didn't display the power of the great samsara divine seal. He already had a plan in his mind. He would snatch this great samsara divine seal. When the time came, he would comprehend it properly. Perhaps he could fuse it with the heaven-flipping seal and form a destructive almighty technique. With the will of the 5 elements, any move could be transformed into something magical. After seeing the other party's move clearly, he also understood that the other party would not change his move. The true essence that had been circulating in his body was mobilized. With a move of his divine sense, the Tianyu sword appeared in his hand. Then, a shocking sword intent spread out and wreaked havoc in the air. Li Lingtian was like a sharp sword standing proudly between heaven and earth. All the powerhouses could feel the destructive sword will. He was shocked. An expert who could cultivate sword intent was impressive. The Tianyu sword spun, and a shocking sword light appeared. The sword light was 2 meters long, and it tore through space with a destructive aura. Li Lingtian's figure flashed and he disappeared as if he had merged with the sword radiance. The destructive sword light slashed at the great samsara divine seal with sword power. In space, 2 extremely destructive attacks tore through the air. Boom! With a shocking explosion, the sword light and the divine seal finally collided. The great reincarnation divine seal was known as a super heaven-grade divine power. When it was used by a martial saint, it was simply devastating. Heavenly Sword Unity was a mighty figure technique that surpassed heaven-rank divine powers. It was known as a saint-rank mighty figure divine power. Although he was only a martial monarch realm expert, he had mastered the will of the 5 elements. In addition, his strength was several times stronger than his cultivation realm. Under this attack, it carried the power to destroy the world. Hiss. The sound of cloth being torn apart could be heard. The 100-meter-wide Great Samsara Divine Seal was torn open by the sword light of the Heaven Sword Unity. The sword ray pierced through the middle of the Divine Seal with a destructive sword aura and slashed at Qing Zhao's body. At this moment, Qing Zhao did not have the slightest chance to resist. His eyes were filled with despair. Tisk. The sword light pierced through Qing Zhao's body. Qing Zhao floated in the air. The remaining force of the sword light cut through the air and landed on the sea. A chasm appeared in the sea, and shocking seawater soared into the sky. Li Lingtian's figure appeared. The Tianyu sword in his hand was still spinning like before. However, Li Lingtian's aura had weakened considerably and his eyes were cold. Ah! With a miserable cry, Qing Zhao's body turned into pieces and finally disappeared in the air. A martial saint was killed by a martial emperor in one strike. A storage pouch fell from the sky. Li Lingtian grabbed it with one hand and the storage pouch returned to his hand. All the experts were startled awake at this time. Other than shock, there was still shock in their eyes. Moreover, there was more fear and dread. A martial supreme had killed a martial saint powerhouse with one move. What kind of concept was that? This sword strike was engraved in the hearts of all the experts. It would never be able to erase the charm of this sword strike. Hush! All the experts gasped. Even martial emperors and martial saints gasped. They knew how terrifying martial saints were, but such a terrifying existence was actually killed in one strike. Such a thing was even more terrifying. Now, this young man in front of him was completely a death god. Li Lingtian landed and swept his cold gaze across all the powerhouses. Wherever his gaze passed, all the powerhouses lowered their heads and dared not look Li Lingtian in the eye. Double the spirit stones, yes. Li Lingtian said calmly after he had finished looking at the powerhouses. After saying that, he began to meditate and regulate his breathing. There was still a little time left, so he took advantage of this time to recover his consumed true essence. While he was meditating and resting, Longda had already begun collecting spirit stones. Now, the number of spirit stones had doubled. 1 billion for martial emperors, 2 billion for martial honors, 4 billion for martial emperors, and 10 billion for martial saints. Instantly, Longda's face revealed an excited smile. Looking at the large number of spirit stones entering his storage bag, his heart was filled with joy. After all, these powerhouses were the overlords of their respective regions. However, they could only offer their wealth in front of Li Lingtian. Naturally, they did not expect Li Lingtian, a martial emperor, to be a martial emperor powerhouse. They did not expect Li Lingtian to be able to kill a martial saint in one move. Now that he had paid double the spiritual stones, he could only admit defeat. The main thing was that Li Lingtian was not someone to be trifled with. Although Martial Saint Yunhao was excited and wanted to collect the spiritual stones, he understood that Li Lingtian's safety was more important. Although no one dared to provoke Li Lingtian at this time, he did not dare to be careless in case someone ambushed Li Lingtian. That would be the end of him. After a full 20 minutes, all the experts had handed in their spirit stones. At this moment, Longda calculated that there were 763 martial royal realm experts. Each of them had 1 billion, which was 763 billion. There were 821 martial honors, each of them had 2 billion, which was 1,642 billion in total. There were 527 martial emperor powerhouses, and each of them had 4 billion, which was 210. 8 billion. There were 8 martial saint powerhouses. 10 billion for each person, 80 billion in total. This time, in just 20 minutes, he had collected 3,593 billion spirit stones. The number of spirit stones was shocking, but it had almost plundered all of these experts. Countless experts were greedy. However, when they thought about how Qing Shao, who was at the second sky of the martial saint realm, was killed in one move, they could only imagine that they had so many spiritual stones. Even if he didn't enter the bottomless abyss, he could still buy countless saint weapons with more than 3 trillion spirit stones. Half an hour later, Li Lingtian opened his eyes and stood up. General Long handed the spirit stone to Li Lingtian, who took it and put it into the divine dragon ring. His eyes were looking at the sky. Although it was not cloudless, it was still very quiet. But now, there was an inexplicable throbbing in the space, giving people an uneasy feeling. Rustle. Rustle. A rustling sound came from the air, but it was unknown where the source was. All the experts revealed excited expressions because the bottomless abyss was about to open. They could also enter the bottomless abyss to search for treasures and resources. They could also leave the dangerous Li Lingtian behind. All the powerhouses thought to themselves that they should never meet this person. After all, in the bottomless abyss, there was no mercy at all. The other party would definitely kill them mercilessly. Chapter 601, bottomless abyss. Boom! With a loud explosion, the space seemed to have been blasted open, and the destructive force wreaked havoc. Li Lingtian's eyes revealed a grave expression as he waved his hands continuously. Streams of magic arts were shot into the air. After more than 1,000 incantations, a light shield with a radius of 100 miles appeared in the sky above the sea. The light shield was the Heaven and Earth 5 Elements formation which Li Lingtian had cast some time ago. Upon seeing this magical light shield, all the powerhouses finally believed Li Lingtian's words. This was the 5 Elements formation and no one could break it. The sea area kept on surging. In the sky, a beam of light came from the 9 heavens and directly bombarded the light shield of the Heaven and Earth 5 Elements formation. Boom! The sea area shook, and even the island trembled as if it was about to sink. This was the might of heaven's might. No matter how powerful humans were, they were incomparably small in front of heaven's might. Li Lingtian's body swayed and he almost fell to the ground. However, he managed to stabilize himself. Heaven and Earth 5 Elements formation, activate. With a light shout, a spell was cast, and the power of the 5 elements entered the 5 Elements formation. Suddenly, a hole appeared on the light shield. It was pitch black inside and went straight to the bottom of the sea. No one knew how deep this hole was or where it led to. Hurry up and go in. You only have 5 minutes. Li Lingtian's hands produced a mystical true essence which was quickly injected into the light shield. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. All the powerhouses knew that Li Lingtian was using his true essence to support the light shield. If they were late, they would not be able to enter. No one hesitated anymore. Their figures flashed and they quickly flew towards the cave entrance. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Rustle. Waves of air-piercing sounds rang out as countless experts entered in a single file. In the end, they disappeared into the hole in the light barrier without a trace. As time passed, more than 2,000 martial artists entered the cave. At that moment, Li Lingtian shouted into the void. The 4 of you, do you need me to invite you? If you don't want to go in, then I'll go in. Li Lingtian shouted into the air as if he was talking to thin air. However, just as he finished speaking, the air trembled and 4 figures appeared not far away from Li Lingtian. The 4 figures were all martial saints, and their bodies emitted a shocking martial saint aura. Judging from his aura, he was definitely not an ordinary warrior sage powerhouse. Li Lingtian was shocked. After the few martial saint powerhouses appeared, they did not enter the light shield immediately. Instead, they stood not far behind Li Lingtian. Their positions and momentum formed a semi-encirclement. Longda and martial Saint Yunhao immediately launched a destructive attack because their opponents were extremely powerful. Even if they used their full strength, they might not be able to defeat their opponents. Moreover, there were 4 of them. 4 super martial saints. Under such circumstances, it was definitely not that simple. The 4 of you, before you do anything, think carefully about the consequences. If the 4 of you think that you have the confidence to defeat me, then give it a try. However, I advise you to think about the consequences. Li Lingtian supported the light shield with both hands as sweat trickled down his face. He had also consumed more than half of his true essence. However, he did not show any fear. Instead, he calmly said to the few experts behind him, "If the other party really dared to make a move, then don't blame him for being merciless." Even if it was risky, he had to make the 4 super martial saints stay. "Sir is indeed powerful. You actually knew that we were up there. It seems that you already knew." The middle-aged man in red shouted. His fire-type martial soul was extremely violent and his cultivation base was unfathomable. Even Li Lingtian could not tell what his cultivation base was. "Huh, you guys want to pay 20 billion. Because I don't want to go in anymore. Earning trillions is enough." There's no need to take the risk. Li Lingtian burst into laughter. He suddenly let go of the matter and turned around to look at the 4 warrior sage powerhouses. Facing 4 martial arts saints, the pressure was immense. However, he could not be at a disadvantage now. If he was at a disadvantage, he would be killed by the 4 martial arts saints. The 4 martial saints were obviously stunned when he let go. 20 billion? Why don't you rob them? The middle-aged man in red said angrily. Others were asking for 10 billion, but they were asking for 20 billion. Wasn't this cheating? Initially, they were going to deal with Li Lingtian. However, they did not expect him to let go of his hand. They were not paying attention to him. I'm robbing. How about it? If you have the ability, then do it. Don't regret it. Li Lingtian channeled his entire body's true essence and activated the devouring light. Instantly, the heaven and earth spirit chi surged toward him and transformed into true essence. The genuine vitality that was originally consumed instantly recovered to its peak condition. This change immediately shocked the 4 martial saints. Devour! The 4 martial saints exclaimed at the same time. With such a physique, it was simply heaven-defying. It could devour the cultivation and consciousness of others, and it could also devour the spiritual energy of heaven and earth into true essence. It was simply that true essence would never be exhausted. Li Lingtian's true essence was restored to its peak as he glared coldly at the 4 martial saint powerhouses. Longda also used the roaring dragon battle halberd in his hand. Martial Saint Yunhao also circulated her vital essence to the extreme. The power of the 3rd sky of the martial saint realm was shocking. As long as he made a move, he would unleash a shocking attack. The trio showed no hesitation or fear in this situation. The 4 martial saints were confused as they did not know if Li Lingtian and the rest were pretending to be strong or if they were really strong. Not enough? Then let's have another one. All of you can stay. Li Lingtian looked at the 4 martial arts saints and knew that they were trying to estimate the current situation. Naturally, he would not let them have their way. With a flick of his divine sense, the space immediately trembled. Heaven Demon Monarch's tall and mighty figure appeared. When he appeared, he was already prepared for battle. This was because Li Lingtian had reminded him to fight back when he was in the Divine Dragon Ring. So it's you. As expected. I was wondering why it was so familiar. The 4 martial saints were shocked and they saw the heavenly demon king's appearance. This was because Li Lingtian's casual words had given rise to another martial saint powerhouse. Moreover, it was a very abnormal martial saint. At the same time, he recognized the Sky Demon King. When he wiped out Dong Ho family, countless experts in the dark knew about it. Upon seeing the heavenly demon king's appearance, they could guess Li Lingtian's identity. The silver-masked youth had wiped out a martial saint with a flick of his finger. His elegance and domineering aura made people feel fearful. Now that they knew that the young man in front of them was the masked young man from last time, the 4 martial saints were incomparably shocked. 20 billion. Li Lingtian said coldly. Naturally, he understood the other party's intention and recognized his identity. However, at this time, he had no choice but to find an opportunity to eliminate these martial saints in the bottomless abyss. Otherwise, it would not be good if his identity was exposed. Alright, 20 billion. Consider me unlucky. The middle-aged man in red did not relax at all when he saw Li Lingtian's group of 4. Needless to say, Li Lingtian's situation could only be described as terrifying. When they saw Li Lingtian killing Qing Xiao, they were shocked and wanted to join forces to eliminate Li Lingtian. Now that they knew that Li Lingtian was the silver-masked young man, they were even less confident. They were confident that the 4 of them could take on one person, but Li Lingtian had 3 helpers by his side. Moreover, there was at least one powerhouse who had yet to show up. If the other powerhouse were to show up, it would be difficult for them to escape easily, let alone kill Li Lingtian. After all, they had a deep impression of the warrior sage that was wiped out with a snap of their fingers. Apart from Longda, the other three of Li Lingtian's group were watching the other party intently. General Long was only relieved after he kept the spiritual stones handed over by the other party. Following that, Li Lingtian cast a spell and the heaven and earth 5 elements formation that was about to dissipate stabilized once again. However, it could be seen that this array formation could not hold on for long because the entrance was slowly disappearing. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Four air-piercing sounds rang out. The middle-aged man in red and the other three quickly entered the light barrier and disappeared. Li Lingtian also called Longda and the other two into the divine dragon ring before he disappeared into the cave in a flash. However, when he entered, he used the spatial banner. He had suffered such a loss before, so he did not dare to let his cultivation fall again. If his cultivation fell in the bottomless abyss, he would really be courting death. The moment he entered the bottomless abyss, Li Lingtian felt as if he was submerged in seawater. However, it was not real seawater but a feeling. This feeling lasted only for a moment. In the blink of an eye, Li Lingtian appeared on an island. The reason why it was called an island was because it was surrounded by an endless sea. At the edge of his divine sense, he found another island. Based on the experience of the powerhouses who had come to the bottomless abyss before, Li Lingtian was certain that this place was the bottomless abyss. Moreover, this place was an independent world. It was an archipelago world, and there were islands of all sizes everywhere. However, there were many dangers up there. There were also countless mysterious resources and treasures, as well as unknown dangers. After Li Lingtian landed, he extended his divine perception and found himself on an island with a radius of 100 miles. There were no demonic beasts or spirit chi on the island, only some ordinary trees. More importantly, there was no moon or sunlight in this place. It was chaotic, but everything could be seen clearly, just like the cloudy days in the world above. Whoosh, whoosh. Li Lingtian's figure flashed as he arrived at the center of the island. He found a more secluded spot to stop before he called out to Longda and the other three. 3 martial saints and a rank 7, level 9 Longda, in addition to his cultivation at the 4th heaven of the martial emperor realm, were considered powerful in this place. The main thing was that the 5 of them did not split up. The other experts were teleported at the same time and could not be together. They were in the divine dragon ring and had been summoned by Li Lingtian. As long as the 5 of them were not too unlucky, they would not encounter a few powerhouses working together. Even if they all joined forces, they could still escape. Flower Drop thanks all the readers for their support. I'm giving out red packets during the new year. Starting from February 10, 2015, I'll give out red packets ranging from 100 to 500 yuan every night at 8 p.m. Group ID 315772906422751359. You have to join the group to get a red packet. Chapter 602, Beginning the Experience, 1. Young Master. After Longda and the other three came out, they stood respectfully behind Li Lingtian and waited for his instructions. At the same time, he also looked around. This was the most instinctive reaction of an expert. Let's leave this place first, in case we encounter others at the place where we teleport. I'll take care of it, Li Lingtian said calmly. After that, he flew into the distance. Longda and the other three quickly followed behind him. They had their divine perception spread out to cover a 200-mile radius. They would defend Li Lingtian at the first sign of danger. The 5 of them flew for a full hour and came across 3 or 4 small islands, but no one appeared on them. In other words, the place where they were teleported to was relatively remote. In the end, Li Lingtian called Tang Qingyue and the others out after he landed on an uninhabited island. The ones who came out this time were Tang Qingyue, Huangfu Yuyan, Shan Mei, Tang Zimeng, and Qingling. The 5 of them had relatively good cultivation and had encountered many things, so they naturally went on their first experiential learning. More importantly, they were both Li Lingtian's women. It was more convenient for them to deal with certain matters. Ling Tian, is this the bottomless abyss? After Tang Qingyue came out, she looked around curiously, but she didn't find anything. She only knew that this place was an island, and the rest of the place was a boundless sea. Yes, this place is the bottomless abyss. However, this place is rather remote. It should be very far from the real bottomless abyss. You can train here now. With a smile on his face, Li Lingtian explained the general situation of the place. Following that, Li Lingtian began to share with them some of his combat experience as well as some of his cunning opponents' tricks. In fact, Li Lingtian had said this countless times in the past. This time, he mentioned it again to remind them not to forget that in a battle between experts, the slightest negligence would cause the battle to dissipate. All of them were extremely intelligent people and could understand it with just a little bit. It was just that they lacked actual combat experience. Let's fly straight ahead now. At least we won't lose our direction. Huangfu Yuyan snuggled up to Li Lingtian and spoke gently. Yes, there are many experts here. We will fly in one direction and I believe that we will not encounter many experts. Therefore, it will be of great help to our training. Shan Mei also spoke, agreeing with Huangfu Yuyan's words. Alright, then we'll fly forward. Anyway, there's no real target in the bottomless abyss. No one knows the situation here. Let's just try our luck. Li Lingtian nodded and led Tang Qingyue and the others to fly quickly. Longda and the other 3 widened the distance and began to spread out in a straight line with Li Lingtian and the others flying in the middle. If they encountered experts above the martial emperor realm, they would kill them immediately. If they encountered martial emperors, they would leave them to Tang Qingyue and the others. Coincidentally, after flying for a full day, they did not meet a single warrior. Instead, they encountered many sea beasts and demon beasts, and there was even a mysterious water monster. As long as they were on the same level as Tang Genji and the others, Li Lingtian and the rest would not make a move. They would only stand by the side and let Tang Qingyue and the others kill them. Although they were only demonic beasts, killing them like this was also a form of training. However, demonic beasts were much weaker than humans. After all, humans had high intelligence and were more difficult to deal with. The one day was just based on Li Lingtian and the others' senses. However, in the bottomless abyss, there was no day or night. This made them feel uncomfortable. Alright, we'll stay here tonight. Li Lingtian told Longda before he found a cave and moved in. Fortunately, there were still caves where demon beasts and sea beasts lived on these islands. After countless years, these caves were empty. It was the best place for them to live. Longda's group of 4 split up into 4 directions and hid in some hidden spots on the island. They would attack in secret if a warrior or demonic beast entered, or Li Lingtian and the others would take action. After all, the training was in all aspects. It was not just about killing opponents, demon beasts, and sea beasts, but also dealing with some natural environments. At night, even if they were resting, they had to familiarize themselves with the environment and adapt to the changes. Tonight, although there's no night in this place, when we rest, we have to pay attention to the environment here. If we encounter demon beast enemies, we have to respond immediately and make the most appropriate response. In the cave, Li Lingtian spoke in a serious tone. Although he felt sorry for Tang Qingyue and the others and did not want them to suffer, a trial was a trial. It could improve one's cultivation base and increase their experience in dealing with various situations. Hence, he had to be serious and strict. Letting them go was not to love them, but to harm them. Strictly demanding them was not to harm them, but to care for them. Yes, we know. Tang Qingyue and the rest nodded. They understood Li Lingtian's intention and prepared to sleep. However, they were dressed neatly this time. They had to deal with all kinds of dangers at the first moment, so they could not take off their clothes. Li Lingtian was also lying down with his clothes on. He was meditating and resting in the cave. As long as a warrior had cultivation, he would be able to endure it. Even if he did not rest for 10 days or half a month, he would not feel tired. Meditation was the best way to rest. This way, one could increase one's cultivation and one could deal with some dangers. Although there was no day or night, with their cultivation, they could naturally understand the time of rest and roughly calculate the length of time. 3 hours later, Li Lingtian was meditating with a frown and a smile on his face. Just as he smiled, Huang Fuyuyan was the first to open her eyes, followed by Shan Mei, and Tang Qingyue, and finally Tang Zimeng and Qingling. This was because they could sense that there were experts on the island. Moreover, to them, they could be considered super experts. An 8th-level martial emperor landed on the island. After looking around, he flew toward the cave. Powerhouses who lived in the wilderness naturally knew where to stay. The direction they came from was exactly where Li Lingtian and the others lived. Someone is coming. An 8th-level martial emperor. Huang Fuyuyan's exquisite little face had a smile on it. Although her cultivation was not the highest among the girls, she had the most experience. Otherwise, she would not have sealed her martial saint cultivation and come out to train. His current cultivation was only at the 6th level of the martial emperor realm, but he was very powerful and experienced. Together with his sisters, he did not take the 8th level of the martial emperor realm to heart. However, Tang Zimeng and Qingling felt a little nervous. This was because they had never fought with any experts before. This was also their first time, so they were naturally a little nervous. Shan Mei, Tang Qingyue, and Huang Fuyuyan had fought before, but not many times. Meng Meng and Qingling, join hands. The 3 of us will hold the fort. Tang Qingyue said to Tang Zimeng and Qingling. For such masters, even if they were all training, they still had to make their own arrangements. Yes. Tang Zimeng and Qingling nodded and could not help but look at Li Lingtian. However, Li Lingtian was meditating and cultivating. His eyes were closed and he was completely ignoring them. Soon, the 2 of them understood that Li Lingtian would not care about them as they were training. No matter what they did, they had to figure out a way to do it themselves. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The 5 of them left the cave and went outside. Li Lingtian had also left the cave the moment they left. He went to a hidden spot and hid himself. With his martial emperor cultivation, his control of space, the thunderclap wings, and the space banner, even martial emperors and martial saints might not be able to notice his movements, let alone martial emperors. After hiding, he saw the experts who had come. They were at the peak of the 8th level of the martial emperor realm. Their cultivation was considered powerful. The silver armor on the martial monarch realm expert made him look like a general on the battlefield. The aura of a martial monarch realm expert was emitted from his entire body, and the space was shaking. At this moment, the martial monarch expert's eyes were filled with a greedy smile because 5 peerless beauties had appeared in front of him. Moreover, the few beauties were only at the 5th or 6th level of the martial emperor realm. Only one of them was at the peak of the 7th level. In the eyes of experts, no matter how high a woman's cultivation was, she was not much of a threat. This was because most of these women's cultivation techniques were very poor and not very powerful. Their main purpose was to maintain their beauty and increase their lifespan. Hee 5 fairies, this one greets you. There is no one on this island. Why don't the 5 fairies follow me? The martial monarch chuckled. His gaze swept across Huang Fuyuyan's proud chest. Then, he slowly shifted his gaze to the other girls. His eyes were filled with happiness and greed. Die. Tang Zimeng was originally nervous, but now she felt humiliated. She could not hold it in anymore. She circulated the vital essence in her body and attacked the martial royal realm expert in a flash. With her mystic spirit body, her cultivation was extremely profound. She waved the Lingqing sword in her hand, and the pressure of the saint weapon carried a sword light as it charged towards the martial royal realm expert. At the same time, Qingling also waved her ice saint weapon. A wave of icy qi almost froze the space. Li Lingtian shook his head as he watched the two ladies' attacks. This was the first time the girls had fought and they were still inexperienced. At the very least, they were angered by their opponents. After getting angry, it was inevitable that he would lose his cool. He could only use 60 to 70% of his strength. However, the two women were both smart people. They knew that they had lost the initiative in their anger, but they still took advantage of the saint weapons in their hands and blasted out destructive attacks. Not bad. They're all saint weapons. Hee, I'm rich this time. When the martial monarch expert saw the two girls getting angry and attacking without any pattern, he was extremely excited. He knew that the 5 girls were all newbies, so there was no pressure to deal with them at all. After saying that, his figure flashed and he attacked the two women. His powerful attack directly responded to the two attacks. His speed and accuracy were completely incomparable to Tang Zimeng and the others. In the blink of an eye, the 3 attacks collided. Chapter 603, Grow Through Experience, 1. Boom! The 3 attacks collided fiercely, emitting a strong explosion. Tang Zimeng and Qingling's figures flashed as they retreated 100 meters to Huangfu Yuyan and the others. The martial monarch realm expert's mouth was stained with blood. This attack was completely caused by Tang Zimeng and the other 2 saint weapons. He did not gain any advantage. In front of a saint weapon, there was not much difference between a rank 6 martial emperor and a rank 8 martial emperor. Meng, Qingling, pay attention to joining hands. Attack and defend in an orderly manner. Huangfu Yuyan reminded her seriously. After she finished speaking, Tang Zimeng and her brother's figures flashed and disappeared in a strange manner. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, there was a burst of explosions in the air. 3 figures flashed. Tang Zimeng and Qingling relied on their powerful and magical movement techniques to quickly flash and attack the martial royal realm expert. Gradually, the 2 of them grasped a pattern, which was to attack together. The 2 of them advanced and retreated in an orderly manner. When they attacked, there was a defense around them. As a result, the 2 of them became more and more familiar with each other, and the pressure of a martial monarch expert increased. Aoki Chikage. Frozen Snow Region. At this moment, 2 attacks appeared at the same time. The timing was perfect, and they were launched just when the martial monarch expert's old strength had been exhausted and his new strength had yet to be born. Boom! Pft! With a loud explosion, the martial monarch expert's figure was thrown up and finally fell to the ground fiercely. His vitality disappeared and he could not be any more dead. Wow! Yay, we did it! After the 2 women killed the martial royal realm expert, they were stunned for a moment and immediately became excited. Their small faces were full of smiles, and they looked extremely cute. This was because they had successfully joined forces and killed a rank 8 martial emperor with their cultivation of rank 5 and rank 6. Not bad. My 2 babies are talented and have good reactions. Pay attention to your composure in the future. In front of your opponent, you have to accept a lot of goading. At that moment, Li Lingtian appeared out of nowhere from the sky. The girls knew that he was watching from outside when they saw his appearance. She felt warm and safe in her heart. Even if it was an experiential learning, her man was always watching over them, worried that they would be in any danger. At the same time, they were extremely happy because this was the first time they had come into direct contact with a powerhouse and had even killed an 8th-level martial emperor. Husband, how are Meng Meng and the others? Big brother Ling Tian, how is it? Are you satisfied? Young master, it felt very natural for us to join forces just now. In the future, after some more experience, I believe that our teamwork will be even more tacit. A few girls approached Li Lingtian and spoke in a coquettish manner, as if they were children who had done something amazing and wanted to be rewarded. Li Lingtian was not the least bit stingy and would not dampen their confidence. With a smile on his face, he praised them all. However, when he praised them, he still mentioned some flaws and things to take note of. They listened attentively because they understood that although they had won once, they might not win every time. There was no second chance for this failure. Failure meant death, so they were all extremely serious and did not dare to be the slightest bit careless. Then, they returned to the cave to rest for a few hours before flying forward. After a day, they encountered several martial monarch powerhouses, as well as Wuzun and martial emperor. Wuzun and martial emperor were all killed by Longda and the others. However, when they killed, they suppressed their cultivation to the same level as their opponents. Then, they slowly demonstrated their moves and battle experience. This way, Tang Qingyue and the others could easily accept it. They would either join forces or kill the martial monarch individually while Li Lingtian and the others held the fort. Wuzun, martial emperor, Longda, and the others attacked. Tang Qingyue and the others watched seriously and gained experience from it. They gained a lot of experience that day. Finally, they found a place to rest and returned to the Divine Dragon Ring. Little White and the others came out of the Divine Dragon Ring feeling extremely happy, but at the same time, they were very nervous. Among the girls, Xiao Bai had seen a lot and had experienced a great battle, so she was naturally much more relaxed. Qing Ping and the others felt nervous. But in the end, he knew that he had to face reality and could only stabilize himself. You must remember, no matter what, don't get angry. Don't be provoked by your opponent. Provoking is the best and easiest method for every expert. Therefore, you have to be careful. Once you are angry, you can only use 0 to 50% of your strength. Moreover, you can't judge calmly. This will become a fatal threat. Li Lingtian said earnestly after Qingping and the others came out. What he was most worried about was that they would lose their rationality and stability. Yes. Qingping and the others nodded. However, Li Lingtian knew that it was not that easy to remain calm. After all, it was his first time fighting against a strong person, and it was a girl. Not to mention girls, even men would be extremely nervous when facing a powerhouse for the first time. Oh right, young master, how is young lady and the others doing? Lu Min looked at Li Lingtian with admiration on her face. When she thought of Qingping and Li Lingtian, she was filled with envy. It was just that she had not had the chance to do so recently, nor did she have a good opportunity to do so. Hence, she could only be envious. Thinking about Tang Qingyue and the others' training, they were all extremely curious. They've trained well. Although they were a little nervous in the beginning, they were still very relaxed when facing strong opponents. Because in the war, either you die or I die. Do you want to die? Li Lingtian told them about Tang Qingyue and the others' results. He did not want Qingping and the others to feel burdened. At the same time, she spoke very seriously and told them the consequences. This way, she could stimulate their potential and stimulate their survival potential. Of course I don't want to die. The girls answered in unison and kept shaking their heads. Subsequently, Li Lingtian asked them to make their own arrangements to see how they would face the powerhouses and how they would team up or attack individually. This time, Ge and Little White had the highest cultivation base. Qingping, Lu Min, and Xiao had similar cultivation base, but Xianyuan Yingying couldn't participate in the experiential learning. However, she was able to watch the other sisters fight. This way, she could also learn a lot of experience. Similarly, Xianyuan Yingying could not blame Li Lingtian. She could only feel shy. After all, if she wanted to achieve a breakthrough, she would have to become a couple with Li Lingtian. How could a girl like her feel embarrassed about this? Following that, Li Lingtian wanted to treat Tang Qingyue and the others the same way. He wanted them to pay attention during their break. Moreover, Li Lingtian had no intention of fighting when he encountered a powerhouse. In this way, the girls knew that they had to rely on themselves to deal with the strong. Under such circumstances, they would all have their instinctive potential to be unleashed. A month had passed. During the month, Tang Qingyue and the others took turns every day, so they had gained a lot of experience. In their hands, each of them had killed a few martial royal realm experts. Now, it seemed that they all carried a trace of powerful aura. This was unique to martial artists. Only martial artists who had truly gone through experience would have this. Li Lingtian was extremely satisfied with their results. Gradually, they learned how to face martial emperors alone, experts of the same level, and even experts of a higher level. After a month of experience, they had all improved tremendously. Li Lingtian was very satisfied with their improvement. Similarly, during this month, they obtained countless treasures and medicinal herbs, as well as the inner cores of some demon beasts and sea beasts. Yes, this island is not small. We have encountered more and more experts during this period of time. I think we have chosen the right direction. Huangfu Yuyan and the others stood beside Li Lingtian as they sized up the island before them. This island was not small. There were mountains on it, and the environment was very good. It was suitable for resting. During this period of time, they had been training in killing demon beasts and sea beasts. They had obtained a lot of resources and gained experience. Naturally, they were in a good mood. Yeah, a month has passed. We'll rest here for a few days and then make plans. Li Lingtian nodded as he replied calmly with a smile on his face. After that, the group walked toward the mountain peak. This time, Tang Qingyue and the other 11 girls all came out. They were all extremely happy. Even if they were to face a martial emperor who was 1 or 2 levels higher than them, they could still kill the other party alone and have the capital to protect themselves. Longda and the other 3 naturally began to search and assess the safety of this island. Oh, that's great. Let's rest well for a few days. During this period of time, my killing intent is getting stronger and stronger. I have to restrain myself. Tang Zimeng said in a sweet voice. Her face was filled with excitement. Although she had to train, she understood that her biggest responsibility was to take care of Li Lingtian and be a good wife to him. After that, the group settled down on the mountain peak and found a few good caves. Li Lingtian cast a few restrictions on the top. Since he was resting, he had to take a good rest. The group of girls had been extremely tired during this period of training, but they were also a little excited. Now that they had calmed down, fatigue surged up and they quickly fell asleep. Li Lingtian had also calculated that although he had discovered countless precious medicinal herbs and obtained countless materials and inner cores from demonic beasts and sea beasts in the bottomless abyss, he had not obtained any true treasures. He knew that this bottomless abyss was definitely not so simple, so he had been looking for the location of that treasure. Otherwise, this bottomless abyss would be unworthy of its reputation. After thinking for a long time, he had already decided in his heart. After these few days passed, he would quickly advance and compete with those super experts. After all, many martial monarchs and martial supremes had been killed during this period of time. However, not many martial emperors had been killed. In fact, there was not even a trace of a martial saint. This was definitely not normal. This meant that those martial saints knew some secret and knew the location of the treasure. Therefore, they rushed in that direction without wasting any time. As for them, they had been training in the early stages and had already wasted time. Therefore, they had to speed up and kill some martial saints to avoid trouble. Chapter 604, Battle of the Martial Saints. Boom! A few days later, Li Lingtian and the others left the cave and headed into the distance. Along the way, they killed countless experts, but they did not encounter any martial arts saint super experts. On this day, the group of people came to a huge island and stopped. This island had a radius of 10,000 miles. Even with Li Lingtian's divine consciousness, he could not monitor it. As soon as they arrived on the island, they heard a deafening explosion. Li Lingtian did not need to think to know that Tang Qingyue and the others knew that the explosion was a battle between powerhouses. Moreover, it was a battle between martial saints. More than a month had passed, and they had not seen any martial saints. To actually have a battle in this place, it was indeed not simple. What a coincidence! Li Lingtian had Tang Qingyue and the others restrain their qi as he extended his divine consciousness into the distance. Immediately, he saw the battle in his divine sense. When he saw the battle between the martial saints, his expression changed several times. It was the middle-aged man in red who came in the other day. He was at the peak of the third sky of the martial saint realm. The other two were also at the second sky of the martial saint realm. Although the difference between the third heaven and the second heaven was too great, it was not easy for two second heaven martial saints to kill a third heaven when they joined forces. Even if there was a difference of 1 or 2 realms between martial saints, it was basically impossible to kill the other party unless they had heaven-defying scraps and divine powers, or they joined forces. This was because even if a martial saint expert could not defeat him, he could still use teleportation to escape. A movement technique like teleportation was an innate divine ability of a super expert. Every time he teleported, he would travel dozens of miles, and it would be very difficult to track him. The battle between the 3 martial saints had not lasted for a short while. It seemed like they were fighting for some treasure. Otherwise, the martial saints would not have risked their lives like this. Not far away from the 3 martial saints, there were hundreds of martial emperor powerhouses. There were even martial venerables and martial emperors. How could Li Lingtian not be surprised by this situation? Something that even a martial emperor, a martial venerable, and a martial emperor would take a risk on must not be simple. One had to know that when martial saints fought for treasures, powerhouses below martial supreme would usually run far away to avoid being caught in the fish pond. Fighting with martial saints for treasures was undoubtedly snatching food from the tiger's mouth. Now that these martial artists dared to snatch food from the tiger's mouth, it must be a treasure worth their lives. Lingtian, what's the situation up ahead? Tang Qingyue asked curiously when she saw the change in Li Lingtian's expression. The other girls looked at Li Lingtian with the same curious expression. Longda and the other 3 could only remain numb to the situation. Although their cultivation was much higher than Li Lingtian's, their divine perception was inferior to Li Lingtian's. Naturally, they were unable to detect the situation ahead. 3 martial saints are fighting, and there are hundreds of ants. Li Lingtian said calmly as he began to calculate in his heart. This was because in a battle between martial saints, no matter who obtained the treasure, they would be injured. They did not dare to move forward rashly, lest they become orioles. He definitely did not like being an oriole. He wanted to be the strongest hunter. 3 martial saints. Even if we attack, it will be difficult to kill them. It will be even more troublesome if we are desperate. Although the other low-level martial artists can't threaten us, it's not good to make a mistake at the critical moment. Huangfu Yuyan spoke in a serious tone. She knew what Li Ling Tian was thinking, so she reminded him in time to prevent him from having trouble reminding him once his thoughts were formed. Ming Luo, keep an eye on them. Don't alert them. Just follow them. Li Ling Tian pondered for a moment before nodding in agreement. Finally, he spoke to Marshal Saint Ming Luo behind him. Marshal Saint Ming Luo's cultivation level was slightly lower than Heavenly Demon King's, but he was the best in terms of wisdom and experience. In a real battle, even the Heavenly Demon King might not be Marshal Saint Ming Luo's match. This was a strategy and calculation. He was most at ease with Marshal Saint Ming Luo because he was a smart person. As for Marshal Saint Yunhao, his cultivation level was not comparable to the Heavenly Monster King or Marshal Saint Ming Luo. He was definitely not as suitable as Marshal Saint Ming Luo if he went out alone. This subordinate understands. Marshal Saint Ming Luo nodded and disappeared. Her cultivation was hidden to the Martial Emperor realm. Li Ling Tian did not make a move now because he was worried that there would be a powerhouse hiding somewhere. As long as he followed them quietly, it would be the best way to catch the big fish. Even if they had a super treasure, if they joined forces to launch a sneak attack, there would definitely not be many people who could survive. As for those martial emperors, and martial supremacies, he could kill them all with a single almighty superpower. With his current cultivation, the myriad returning swords could destroy all the martial emperors. After Marshal Saint Ming Luo left, Li Ling Tian and the others found a more secluded place to hide. This way, he wouldn't attract any attention within the range of all the experts' divine senses. Old Ghost Xian Yin, don't be so ruthless. Even if you're at the third heaven, it's impossible for you to kill the two of us. Besides, we discovered this treasure first. It has nothing to do with you. Why do you have to be such an evil person? If you let go immediately, we can pretend that nothing happened. Donghua Tian said loudly. The attacks in his hands continuously bombarded the middle-aged man in red. So this middle-aged man in red was called Dazzling Sound. His other companion was also his blood brother, Donghua Yun. The two of them had the same cultivation base, and their minds were connected. During the battle, they knew what the other was thinking. When the two brothers joined forces, even Xian Yin, who was at the third sky of the martial saint realm, could not defeat them. The two of them had also seen the other martial emperor powerhouses obtain the treasure and snatched it away. They did not expect Dazzling Sound to be the Oriole. The three of them fought endlessly. Some martial emperors were also watching from the side and were furious. Huh, Sir Donghua, I don't have the intention to kill you all. However, I still have a few ways to defeat you. Hand over the Tiandu Kalen. You're not suitable to have it. Dazzling Sound laughed, but his face was cold and his eyes were filled with excitement. He did not expect to find an ancient treasure, the Tiandu Kaling, in the bottomless abyss. Although the Tiandu Kaling was a treasure for girls, it was a divine artifact. Even in the Black Continent, there were only a few divine artifacts. Only the kingdoms had low-grade divine artifacts. As long as he had a divine artifact, he would be able to dominate the world and increase his strength by a large margin. In front of an expert of the same level, using a divine artifact would definitely kill the opponent. It wasn't easy for him to see the heavenly capital Kaling, so he naturally wouldn't give up just like that. There's no use for you to take it. Besides, this Tiandu Kaling was discovered by us brothers. Donghua Yun had a natural expression on his face. He had completely forgotten that they had also snatched it from the hands of other martial sovereigns. Boom! As the three of them spoke, they did not have the slightest intention of stopping. On the contrary, their attacks became even more intense. For a moment, countless experts kept dodging to avoid being caught in the fish pond. In that case, I won't show mercy. Limitless Dark Mysterious Seal, King of Hell kowtow 3 times. Dazzling Sound knew that the other party wouldn't hand over Tiandu Kaling so easily, so he didn't continue to pester them because he knew that there were other experts in this place. If this continued, his primeval essence would be exhausted. Not only would he not be able to obtain Tiandu Kaling, but he might even be killed. After saying that, he circulated the true essence in his entire body to the extreme. Suddenly, a stream of profound yin qi soared into the sky. All the experts were shocked. They didn't expect that this Xian Yin was actually a meditation cultivator. In the past, he had always hidden his cultivation attributes. Now that he had unleashed such a shocking attack, he was constantly dodging. However, in front of Xian Yin, who was at the peak of the third sky of the martial saint realm, he could not resist at all. Since Dazzling Sound had used such an attack and exposed his identity, he naturally wouldn't let anyone leave this place. Instantly, the profound yin qi in the sky swept across. The Dongguo brothers never expected that Dazzling Sound was a meditation cultivator, nor did they expect the profound yin qi to be so terrifying. For a moment, they were all extremely shocked and their expressions were solemn. While the two of them were still in shock, Dazzling Sound had already used the attack of the Elysium race's mighty figure. He had also used two destructive attacks at the same time. He wanted to kill the two brothers in one go. There was a palm print with destructive profound yin qi and 3 huge Yama clones. The 4 destructive energies blasted towards the Dongguo brothers. The destructive energies tore the sky apart, and their auras were domineering and ruthless. Countless experts felt the aura of death. The Underworld King's 3 kowtow was the most mysterious attack of the Underworld. Without this attack, the world would have turned into hell. It brought a negative emotion to the martial artists. Now, all the martial artists did not have the slightest sense of resistance. Water and wood grow together, the world is spinning. When Dongguo Yun and Dongguo Tian saw the destructive attack, they were terrified. They also understood that Xian Yin hadn't used his full strength at the beginning. They also understood that the third sky of the martial saint realm wasn't something that the second sky could compare to. The two of them looked at each other and unleashed their respective attributes to the extreme. Suddenly, a gloomy aura appeared between heaven and earth, and the two of them disappeared. Boom! With an earth-shattering explosion, Dazzling Sound's 4 destructive attacks smashed down ruthlessly, bombarding the Dongguo brothers without any suspense. The two brothers were beaten up and disappeared from the island. However, when Dazzling Sound's attack landed on the Dongguo brothers, his expression changed drastically. This was because a destructive power that carried the aura of death had arrived above his head. It was already too late for him to dodge. Pfft! The destructive attack hit his head, and he felt like he was struck by lightning. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. Ah! In an instant, countless martial monarchs and martial honors were killed, and there were not many martial emperor powerhouses left. Even a martial saint expert would not be able to resist the 3 kowtows of Hades, let alone an expert below a martial supreme. The island was temporarily quiet. There were only a dozen or so of the hundreds of martial artists. These martial emperors were all existences at the 8th or 9th heaven. There was also Dazzling Sound on the ground and the expert who attacked Dazzling Sound in the air. Everyone looked curiously at the expert in the sky. They wondered who had attacked Dazzling Sound at the most critical moment. However, when they saw the experts in the sky, they were all shocked. Chapter 605, Profound Sky Arrow, 1. The expert that appeared in the air was none other than Dongguo Yun, one of the Dongguo brothers who had been attacked. All the experts were shocked. The Dongguo brothers were clearly being attacked, but they did not expect that they would actually appear on Dazzling Sound. They did not know how Dongguo Yun did it. Even if he had a clone technique, it was impossible for him to be so fast. At this moment, Dongguo Yun's face revealed a pained expression. His eyes were cold as he looked at Xian Yin, who was on the ground, because his brother of hundreds of years had fallen. The two brothers joined hands and executed the heaven and earth rotation, transferring all their cultivation to Dong Guiyun. When the two of them cultivated this move, they knew that once the two of them used it, one of them would die. In that situation just now, Dong Guotian had helped his younger brother and transferred his cultivation to Dong Guiyun. The power of the world spinning was shocking, completely beyond the imagination of the experts. No one had expected the world to spin so mysteriously. It actually fused the cultivation of two people at the same time and severely injured the opponent. Pfft! Very good, very good. I didn't expect the two of you to cultivate the world spinning. However, I already knew that the two of you were spinning, haha. Below, Dazzling Sound's originally weak aura stabilized. He slowly stood up and laughed loudly. His eyes were cold and sharp as he looked at Dong Guiyun. This time, even if he understood that the Dongguo brothers were spinning, it was impossible to easily resist. At the most critical moment, he could only protect himself from dying. He had paid a heavy price, which was that his cultivation would drop by 1 realm after half an hour. This realm could not be recovered within 100 years. Hades' clone. When Dong Guiyun saw Dazzle Sound's situation, he cried out in shock. At this moment, he naturally understood what was going on. It turned out that the other party had already planned everything. He had let the two of them use the heaven and earth swirl, but the other party had used the Nether King's clone. Now that their brothers had died, the other party was only injured. However, while he was screaming, his figure had already flashed down. A shocking Milky Way light shot towards Xianyin. His brother had fallen, and his opponent had only been injured. He naturally felt bad that he had died in vain. He also understood the current situation. If he didn't take the opportunity to make a move, he wouldn't have a chance to kill Dazzling Sound. In fact, he wouldn't even have a chance to survive. The world spun and turned against the heavens. It could turn into water and wood and disappear between heaven and earth. However, an attack that was destroyed would only die, just like turning into water and wood. Dongguo Tian's death could not be exchanged for Xianyin's death. This was the danger of the divine martial continent. There were all kinds of schemes and conspiracies, and all kinds of battles of experience. Dazzling Sound arrow. Dazzling Sound was surprised, but an evil smile appeared on his face as he drew his bow with both hands. Suddenly, a stream of profound Yin Qi appeared in the air. The profound Yin Qi formed an arrow, and a phantom bow appeared. The Dazzling Sound arrow shot towards the light of the Milky Way with destructive power. The battle between the two people made all the martial artists stunned. Everything that had just happened had completely exceeded their imaginations. They had never thought that a great battle would have such a scheme. At the moment of life and death between the two of them, a subtle fluctuation appeared in the air. Divine Heaven-Splitting Shield. Heaven-Splitting Shuttle. A faint voice appeared in the air. A middle-aged man appeared not far from Dong Guiyun, but this person did not attack Dong Guiyun. Dong Guiyun didn't put up any defenses against this middle-aged man. This scene was incomparably strange. The middle-aged man and Dong Guiyun formed a corner formation. A huge shield that gave off a powerful and heavy aura appeared and blocked in front of Dong Guiyun. At the same time, he waved his hand, and a shuttle-shaped treasure with an indestructible force shot towards Dazzling Sound. This change, Dazzling Sound did not expect it, and the other martial artists did not expect it either. He hadn't expected such a change to occur at this time. It was obvious that Dong Guiyun knew about the existence of the person beside him. Everything was within his calculations. Stop. When Dazzling Sound saw the expert who suddenly appeared in the sky, he was instantly shocked to death. If there were a few martial saints together, he would not be afraid at all. However, when they were alone, that person was definitely in existence like the god of death. The appearance of this person in the air meant that the terrifying figure was here. In his current situation, not to mention that terrifying figure, even this Dong Guiyun in front of him was giving him a headache. Coupled with this level 3 expert, he did not have the slightest chance. He hurriedly shouted for him to stop. Is that possible? Killing intent surged in Dong Guiyun's eyes. He understood Dazzling Sound's current situation and showed no mercy. Light poured down like a galaxy. The powerhouse who appeared in the sky was Marshal Saint Ming Luo. He was originally hiding, but he was instructed by Li Lingtian to persuade Dong Guiyun to surrender and help him kill Xian Yin. In this way, he had dealt with 3 powerful martial saints at once and had even gained a powerful martial saint helper. Ming King Immovable Golden Body. Dazzled Sound saw that the other party could not stop at all. His face was ashen, and his expression became ruthless. His entire body was covered in golden light, like a statue of a wise king. Boom! Boom! 2 destructive explosions sounded out as the Dazzling Sound arrow hit the divine heaven-splitting shield, helping Dong Guiyun block the destructive attack. At the same time, the Milky Way light and the sky-splitting shuttle bombarded the Ming Emperor Immovable Golden Body. The world shook violently, and the space was torn apart inch by inch. Shoo! What a thick turtle shell! All the experts gasped. Marshal Saint Ming Luo was shocked when she saw that her attack did not break through the opponent's defense. The golden light only trembled violently for a moment before stabilizing. Dazzling Sound smiled. He had finally blocked 2 destructive attacks. As long as he could block the 2 attacks, he would have a chance to escape. Now, he had finally blocked them. However, just as his smile appeared, it turned into fear, and his eyes were filled with despair and ashes. Profound Sky Arrow. A delicate voice rang out. It was like the sound of nature. As soon as he finished speaking, the spiritual qi between heaven and earth condensed, forming a strange passage. In this passage, an ancient light shadow shot over at a speed that ignored the distance of space. In an instant, it pierced through the void and arrived in front of him. This arrow pierced through the air. It was a stunning arrow. The arrow became eternal, as if it came from beyond the heavens. Tisk. When the light shadow arrived, Dazzle Sound's Ming King Immovable Golden Body had already disappeared. A hole had appeared in his chest, and blood kept flowing out. Dazzling Sound's expression was calm, without the slightest hint of shock. He only looked at his chest indifferently. It turned out that the appearance of the light shadow only represented death. The light shadow was just the airflow brought by the profound heavenly arrow after it broke through the air. The passage of spiritual energy instantly formed, allowing the profound heavenly arrow to ignore space and time. No speed or defense could block this arrow. Pfft! The mysterious heavenly divine bow was born at the wrong time. Dazzling Sound looked at the arrow floating in the air, and his eyes revealed a look of unwillingness. The Ming King's immovable golden body actually encountered the mysterious heavenly divine bow. This was the wrong time. All of this happened in less than 10 seconds. In the eyes of all the experts, it was as if an entire world had passed. The originally powerful and heaven-defying Dazzling Sound was actually killed in the end. Even when he died, he did not see the expert who killed him. Big brother, how is my mysterious heavenly divine bow? Is it powerful? In the sky, that delicate voice sounded again. As soon as the voice fell, a light shield appeared. Inside the light shield was a group of peerless girls. One of the fairy-like girls was holding an exquisite bow in her hand. She looked up at the young man beside her and asked happily. Then, the light shield landed on the ground. All the girls came out and the light shield disappeared. That's right. GE was able to control the mysterious heavenly divine bow in such a short period of time. It's indeed not simple. This is your talent as an elf princess. Naturally, Li Lingtian and the others were the ones who came. Li Lingtian looked at Ge and stroked his hair with a loving expression. This subordinate greets young master. Marshal Saint Ming Luo landed before Li Lingtian and bowed respectfully. Finally, she retreated to the back and stood with Long Da and the other two. All the warriors were shocked and they saw Li Lingtian and the group of girls. They did not expect to encounter a perverted powerhouse like Li Lingtian in this place. They were all terrified. None of them dared to make a sound. They knew that if they did, they might be wiped out by Li Lingtian. At that moment, their fate was in the hands of others. "Sir, you helped me kill Dazzling Sound and saved me. I will follow you forever, and I will go through fire and water for you." Dong Guiyun came before Li Lingtian and muttered to himself for a moment before calming himself down. It was indeed a little difficult for an expert like him to bow down to others, but he understood the current situation and the other party's intentions. If not for the other party's help, he would definitely have fallen, and he would not have been able to take revenge for his brother. "You don't have to say anything to me. You should follow him. He has the final say in these matters," Li Lingtian said calmly. Without even looking at Dong Guiyun, he walked straight to Dazzling Sound's corpse. He went down and put away a bag of holding. His divine sense entered the bag, and his expression was calm. "I don't wish to see you again." Li Lingtian retracted his divine consciousness and looked at the martial emperor powerhouse that was born as he spoke indifferently. Then, he waved his hand, signaling these people to leave. He didn't plan to keep these people, but he didn't want to kill them either. Letting these people go would not affect him. Even if they became enemies in the future, he would not regret it. "Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir." Instantly, all the martial artists were incomparably excited, as if they had just received amnesty. They thought that Li Lingtian was going to kill them all, but they never expected him to let them off so easily. After thanking him, his figure flashed and he quickly left, flying towards the sky and sea. Li Lingtian looked up into the void with a faint smile on his face as he watched the powerhouses leave. "Why do you always like to be like this? Aren't you tired?" Li Lingtian said lightly before he looked away from the sky. "I recommend the new book, Ancient Sage Myriad Ancient King. I welcome everyone to read and save it. I also want to vote for it. The new book needs everyone's support. Only with everyone's support can the new book go further." Chapter 606, Magical Island, 1, I'll be leaving first. The space fluctuated slightly, and a figure streaked across the void like a meteor, flying toward the sky and sea. That gray figure seemed to have merged with the sky. If one did not pay attention, they would not be able to see it. This was also due to Li Lingtian's control of the 5 elements and space. He could easily sense everything in the space. If he wanted to hide in the air, he would be asking for trouble. Dong Guiyun was shocked in his heart. He did not expect that there was still a super expert hiding in the sky. He had also discovered the existence of that person. He was at the peak of the 3rd sky of the martial saint realm, an existence similar to Xian Yin. Unexpectedly, this powerhouse was so afraid in front of Li Lingtian that he did not even dare to show his face. "Let's leave this place first in case other experts come." Li Lingtian looked at Tang Qingyue and the others before he flashed and flew toward the ocean. Originally, this island was a good place to rest. However, after a huge battle here, the spatial fluctuations and movements would definitely attract more experts. The abyss was a boundless sea with countless islands. Only the true center was where the abyss existed. As Li Lingtian and the rest continued flying, they encountered more powerhouses, but they seldom made a move. They flew directly toward the center. During this period of time, Dong Guiyun passed the Tiandu ringtone to Li Lingtian. The two of them were not wood elemental to begin with. It was just that they were tempted by a divine artifact. Furthermore, the Tiandu ring tones were for girls. He was a man, so he naturally didn't like such treasures. Instead of being sad when she saw the Tiandu ringtone, she might as well give it to Li Lingtian. He knew that Li Lingtian did not need such a treasure, but he could give it to the girl beside Li Lingtian. Tang Zimeng had a wood-type martial soul, so it was just right for her to use the Tiandu bell. The Tiandu bell was a divine artifact. Although it was only a low-grade divine artifact, it was enough to increase her strength by a large margin. On this day, the group of people arrived at a huge island and was immediately shocked. This was because there was such a huge island in the bottomless abyss. It was really shocking. Moreover, this island was completely a continent. It was unknown how big it was, and there were countless residents on it. Swoosh! Li Lingtian and the others landed on the island with a hint of excitement on their faces. It felt good to be on solid ground. Although they had encountered some islands in the past, they always gave people a sense of unease. It was as if half of the island was blown away by the sea breeze at any time. This island could no longer be called an island, but a continent. I can finally be grounded. After Tang Zimeng landed, she was extremely happy. The other girls were the same. On the other hand, Li Lingtian found it funny. He felt sorry for the girls around him. Even though the training was tough and dangerous, it was normal after all. In the divine martial continent, becoming a warrior was not something one could control. This place is so rich in spiritual energy. Apart from the lack of sunlight and moonlight, the spiritual energy in this place is several times denser than in Nandu County. Tang Qingyue felt the aura of this place, and a look of surprise appeared on her face. Ever since he came to the bottomless abyss, he had not felt any spiritual qi. Even when he was on the sea area just now, he had not sensed any spiritual qi at the moment he landed. Only on this island could one feel the spiritual energy. That's right. This spiritual energy can only be felt on the island. Huangfu Yuyan also spoke up. She was extremely amazed by this place. Spiritual energy was like air, but in this place, it was as if there was an invisible restriction controlling the spiritual energy. What a magical formation! Li Lingtian was curious as well. He began to use his divine perception to sense the surroundings. After sensing the surroundings, a surprised expression appeared on his face. The formation in this place is actually an ancient magical formation. I've never heard of it before. There's such a thing. Darling is very familiar with ancient and primordial divine formations, but you can't see through this formation. It seems that this place is really magical. Shun Mei was shocked when she heard Li Lingtian's words. In terms of array Dao and alchemy Dao, no one in this world could compare to L1 Lingtian. Li Lingtian also controlled the divine array diagram and was proficient in the world's great array, ancient divine array, and ancient forbidden array. However, she did not expect that even Li Lingtian could not see through the array formation in this place. How could she not be shocked? There are all kinds of strange things in this world. Even if the divine array diagram is in my hands, it doesn't mean that I can know all the arrays in the world. Furthermore, there are many cultivation techniques, skills, array formations, and pill Dao. Everything that is recorded will forever only be 10 to 20% of the original. There are often many things that are not famous, but they are heaven-defying existences. 6 Li Lingtian replied with a smile. It was impossible to record everything in the world. How could one record everything in the world just by recording it? Just like geniuses, there were only a few famous ones. However, powerful existences often did not care about fame. They were extremely powerful, and that was the case for hermits. Just like the Azure continent, it didn't look very powerful, but there were countless hermits in it. It was the same for the Tianhe district. It seemed that the 4 families and the 4 cities were very powerful, but the truly powerful Xianyuan family could easily sweep the entire Tianhe district. Let's find a place to stay first. Tang Qingyue looked around. There were countless residents in this place, but when she saw them, there was no fear or fear. It was as if she saw ordinary people. Then, he suggested that they stay and rest for a period of time. Let's go. Li Lingtian nodded and led the group into the distance. Along the way, the residents here were all busy. They were all ordinary residents, which meant that they were the natives here. However, these people were no different from the people of Xianzhou. They all worked at sunrise and rested at sunset. Although there was no sunlight or moonlight in this place, the spiritual qi here was dense and there were countless resources. They could also kill sea beasts and fish to survive. The arrival of Li Lingtian and the others seemed to have become a habit for the residents. Longda asked around and came to Li Lingtian's side. Young master, the residents here are very familiar with our arrival. In the past, countless experts came here. They all knew about it and didn't care at all. A few days ago, many experts came here. It should be the others, but they didn't stop. Instead, they flew towards the center. Longda spoke respectfully beside Li Lingtian. After that, he retreated to the side and waited for Li Lingtian's instructions. Ming Luo, it's better for you to go. If there are any changes, come back and tell me. Li Lingtian muttered to himself before he spoke to Marshal Saint Ming Luo. Marshal Saint Ming Luo bowed respectfully after she heard that. Li Lingtian and the others flew forward at a moderate pace. This island should be the center, which is also the center of the bottomless abyss. We have already arrived at the edge of the bottomless abyss. Let's find a place to rest for a while. We'll head there after Marshal Saint Ming Luo comes back from asking around. Li Lingtian whispered to Tang Qingyue and the others as he flew. At the same time, he paid attention to the residents here. Although the spiritual energy here was extremely dense and almost tangible, these residents actually did not have the slightest cultivation. However, what shocked him was that many of these residents had a lifespan of 200 to 300 years. They looked middle-aged. This was the first time he had seen an ordinary person with such a long fespan without cultivating. He had never heard of it before. It seemed that it had something to do with the array formation and spiritual energy here. Otherwise, a human who did not know how to cultivate would die at the age of 100 at most. After flying for a full 2 hours, the group found an inn and alighted. After asking around, he found out that this island was the same as the mainland, except that there was only one city on it. There were tens of millions of residents, so there were naturally inns. Li Lingtian and the others booked the inn and brought Tang Qingyue and the rest to the backyard. Although the residents of this place did not cultivate, spirit stones were very useful to them. They also used spirit stones as currency. Furthermore, there were spirit mines on the island. Naturally, Li Lingtian and the rest's spirit stones were useful. You guys rest first. Take advantage of the opportunity to rest well, in case something happens. Li Lingtian told Tang Qingyue and the others after he entered the courtyard and cast a few restriction spells and array formations. Then, Tang Qingyue and the others returned to their rooms to rest. Li Lingtian was also meditating in his room as his divine consciousness entered the divine dragon ring. Silk. There was a slight fluctuation in the air before a throne with a radius of 2 meters appeared in front of Li Lingtian. This throne was obtained by Dishi family when they entered the ancient battlefield with 5 elements at the peak. At that time, they got a few magical items and took this throne with them. He didn't expect that the throne would tremble in the divine dragon ring after coming to this island. The movement shocked Li Lingtian. The divine dragon ring was an independent space that could isolate any kind of sensing. However, he did not expect the throne to move on its own. He had encountered many things. Others might think it was impossible, but he did not think so. Because he had experienced all sorts of strange things, he naturally believed that the throne was shaking as if it was being attracted by the outside world. If he had not encountered such a thing before, he would naturally not believe. After all, these things were difficult to understand. I wonder what you can sense in this bottomless abyss. Li Lingtian looked at the throne before him. When his cultivation base was low, he was almost about to worship the throne under its pressure. However, after his cultivation base increased, he had sealed the throne a few times and the aura of a sovereign was completely sealed away. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.